The world outside grows quiet. The hum of the day finally fades into the deep stillness of the night. But inside you, a storm can often be raging, an ocean of thoughts, churning without end. Memories of yesterday pull you back. Anxieties about tomorrow pull you forward. The endless lists of what you should have done and what you must still do circle relentlessly. You lie down seeking rest, but your mind refuses to be still. It races with a life of its own. You crave a moment of silence, just a single, clear moment of peace. But it feels impossibly, frustratingly out of reach. This feeling of being stuck, of being a restless passenger in your own mind, is not a personal failure. It is a shared condition, a quiet epidemic of the modern world. We are adrift in a relentless current of information, of notifications, of expectations placed upon us by society, and most heavily, by ourselves. We run faster and faster, chasing goals and deadlines, only to feel more disconnected, more distant from our own center, more lost in the frantic rhythm of it all. We have more knowledge at our fingertips than any generation in history. Yet we often lack a fundamental wisdom, an insight into the very nature of our own consciousness, the very source of our own discontent and suffering. But what if there was another way? Not a way to escape from life, but a way to engage with it more deeply, more skillfully. What if there was a path, walked by countless others for thousands of years, that leads not away from reality, but directly into the very heart of it? The journey we are about to embark upon together does not ask you to adopt a new set of rigid beliefs, but rather to explore a timeless science of the mind. Think of it as a practical toolkit, a collection of ancient yet profoundly relevant methods for untangling the knots within, for soothing the restless ocean of your mind, and for rediscovering the clarity that lies beneath the waves. It is a path that gently suggests that the profound peace we so desperately seek is not something to be found out there, somewhere in the future, after we achieve one more thing. It is something to be cultivated, right here, inside of us. This is an invitation to begin that journey, a journey back to yourself, back to the calm, clear, and spacious awareness that has always been waiting, patiently, beneath all the noise. We begin our journey by venturing into the wild and untamed landscape of our own mind. It is a place we inhabit every second of every day. Yet for many of us, it remains a territory filled with noise, confusion, and unrest. In the ancient teachings of the Buddha, this state has a wonderfully descriptive name, the monkey mind. Imagine a restless monkey in a vast jungle, agitated and unable to stay still. It screeches and gibbers, swinging frantically from one tree branch to another, never settling, never finding a moment of peace. It leaps from a branch of regret about the past, to a branch of anxiety about the future, then to a branch of idle fantasy, then to a branch of harsh self-criticism. It is a creature of pure impulse, driven by an endless, exhausting momentum. This is not some foreign concept. This is the lived, daily reality for so many of us. It is that internal chatter that never seems to stop, that voice in the head that pulls you in 1,000 different directions at once. One moment you are trying to focus on a task at work, and the next, your mind is replaying a conversation from last week. Then it jumps to a snippet of a song you heard this morning. Then it worries about an appointment next month. and then it reminds you that you forgot to buy milk. All of this can happen in the span of less than 10 seconds. It feels chaotic because it is chaotic. It is exhausting because it robs us of our vital energy, leaving us feeling scattered, fragmented, and perpetually tired. Even after a full night's sleep, we feel as though there is an unruly, demanding house guest living inside our head, one who never stops talking, and we have no idea how to ask it to be quiet. To understand how to soothe this monkey, we must first understand why it is so agitated. This is not a personal failing or a sign of weakness. This restlessness is, in fact, a feature of our ancient biological hardware operating in a world it was not designed for. Deep within our brain is a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. This is our primitive alarm system, or internal surveillance center. For our ancestors who lived on the savannah, this system was an essential tool for survival. It was constantly scanning the environment for threats. A rustle in the grass that could be a predator. A shadow in the distance that could be an enemy. When a genuine, physical threat was detected, the amygdala would sound the alarm, triggering the fight or flight response, flooding the body with adrenaline and cortisol. This prepared them to either fight for their life or run for safety. It was a brilliant system for a world of immediate, physical dangers. After the threat passed, the system would power down, and the body and mind would return to a state of calm. The problem is, we are still walking around with this same ancient alarm system, but the world has changed dramatically. The threats we face today are rarely a tiger in the grass. They are a difficult email from our boss, a looming deadline, a traffic jam, an argument with a loved one, or the subtle pressure of comparing our lives to the curated perfection we see on social media. Our brain, in its primitive wisdom, cannot distinguish between the threat of a predator and the threat of an unpaid bill. It perceives both as dangers, and because these modern threats are not immediate, physical events that pass quickly, but are often chronic, abstract, and ongoing, our alarm system never gets the signal to switch off. It stays in a state of constant, low-grade activation. This is the biological engine driving the monkey mind. It is a survival mechanism stuck in the on position, perpetually scanning for problems, rehearsing worst-case scenarios, and keeping us in a state of heightened alert that manifests as restlessness, anxiety, and a mind that simply will not be quiet. The consequences of living with a constantly activated monkey mind are profound. It is the primary thief of our peace, our focus, and our rest. When we try to sleep, the monkey becomes hyperactive, the darkness and silence, instead of bringing calm, provide the perfect stage for the mental drama to unfold. The mind replays the day's mistakes, rehearses tomorrow's challenges, and magnifies every small worry into a catastrophe. The bed, which should be a sanctuary of rest, becomes a theater of anxiety. This constant state of mental alert creates a background hum of anxiety that follows us throughout our day. We feel on edge, irritable, and easily overwhelmed, often without even knowing the specific cause. It is simply the exhausting background noise of a mind that has forgotten how to be at rest. Furthermore, our ability to concentrate is shattered when the mind is conditioned to jump from thought to thought every few seconds. The capacity for deep, sustained focus withers away. We find it difficult to read a book without our mind wandering, to listen fully to a conversation without planning our response, or to complete a single task without being pulled away by a dozen other internal and external distractions. This deeply impacts our work, our relationships, and our simple ability to be present for and enjoy our own lives. There is a powerful Zen story that perfectly illustrates this human predicament and points toward the solution. A man is walking through a field when he encounters a ferocious, hungry tiger. He flees, the tiger chasing close behind him. He comes to the edge of a high cliff, and in a desperate move, he grabs hold of a thick vine and swings himself down over the edge. As he hangs there, suspended between the snarling tiger above and the rocky abyss below, he sees, to his horror, that two mice, one white and one black, have appeared and have begun to gnaw on the vine he is clinging to. He knows that it is only a matter of time before the vine snaps. His situation seems utterly hopeless. The tiger of his past is waiting above. The abyss of his future is waiting below. And the vine of his life is being eaten away by the black mouse of night and the white mouse of day. This is the story our monkey mind tells us about our life, a tale of constant, inescapable peril. But then, in the midst of this terror, the man looks to the side and sees a single, beautiful, wild strawberry growing from a small ledge on the cliff face. Reaching out with his free hand, he plucks the strawberry and puts it in his mouth. The story ends with a simple, profound question: how sweet it tasted. This story is a perfect metaphor for the choice we face in every moment. The tiger represents all of our past regrets, our traumas, our mistakes. Everything that we feel is chasing us. The deep abyss represents our fear of the future, the great unknown, the fear of death and uncertainty. The vine is our fragile life, and the two mice are the relentless passage of time, day and night, gnawing away at the time we have left. This entire setup is the dramatic, terrifying narrative created and sustained by the anxious, restless mind. It paints a picture of our existence as one of constant crisis. But the strawberry is everything. The strawberry represents the present moment. It is the only thing that is truly real. It is the tangible, sensory experience of right now. The taste on the tongue, the feeling of the sun on the skin, the sound of a bird singing, the sensation of the breath entering and leaving the body. The man in the story did not magically make the tiger or the abyss disappear. He did not stop the mice from gnawing. Instead, he made a radical choice. He chose to shift his attention from the terrifying story his mind was telling him, and instead, to place it fully on the simple, concrete reality of the present moment. And in that moment, he found not fear, but sweetness. He found a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, not by escaping his problems, but by being fully present right in the middle of them. This brings us to the first, most fundamental principle on this path to inner peace. You are not your thoughts. You are not the restless monkey. You are not the tiger, nor the abyss, nor the gnawing mice. These are just mental and emotional events. They are stories passing through your consciousness. Your true nature is the consciousness itself, the vast, open, silent awareness that is witnessing all of it. Think of yourself as the sky, and your thoughts and feelings as the clouds that drift through. Sometimes the clouds are dark and stormy. Sometimes they are light and fluffy, but the sky itself is never touched, never harmed, never defined by the clouds. The first step towards quieting the monkey mind is not to fight it, for fighting the monkey only gives it more energy and makes it scream louder. The first step is to simply take a step back, to create a small space of observation between you, the witness, and the activity of your mind. It is the shift from being lost in the drama to being the one who is watching the drama unfold. We have now seen the chaos of the monkey mind. We have explored its biological roots in our ancient brain, and through the parable of the strawberry, we have glimpsed a profound truth. Our freedom lies not in changing our circumstances, but in changing our relationship to our own mind. We have recognized the inner turmoil, but this leads to a critical question: if we are not our thoughts, why do we get so completely lost and entangled in them? What is the powerful glue that binds us so tightly to this chaotic monkey, making us believe that its frantic chatter is the truth of who we are? To answer that, we must now turn our attention to the very root of our dissatisfaction and suffering. We have pulled back the curtain and identified the restless, chaotic state of the monkey mind. We have seen how it operates, how it steals our peace and scatters our attention. This recognition is a crucial first step, but it naturally leads to a deeper, more fundamental question. What fuels this agitated state? What is the food that gives the monkey its frantic energy? To find the answer, we must go beyond the symptom of the noisy mind and diagnose the root cause of our inner turmoil. In the psychological framework of the Buddha, this root cause is explained with profound clarity. The journey begins with understanding one central concept, a Pali word called dukkha. This word, dukkha, is often translated into English simply as suffering. But this translation, while not incorrect, is incomplete and can be misleading. It might conjure images only of great tragedy, intense physical pain, or deep emotional grief. While dukkha certainly includes these obvious forms of suffering, its meaning is far broader, more subtle, and much more intimately woven into the fabric of our daily lives. Dukkha is better understood as a pervasive sense of unsatisfactoriness. It is the background hum of discontent, the subtle feeling that something is not quite right, that something is missing. It is the inherent stress and friction that comes from living in a world that is constantly changing, a world that rarely conforms to our desires. It is the thirst that is never fully quenched, the itch that can never be perfectly scratched. It is the experience of a pleasant vacation ending and the bittersweet feeling that follows. It is the anxiety before a presentation. It is the quiet boredom of a Sunday afternoon. It is the frustration of being stuck in traffic. It is even present in our happiest moments as a subtle, underlying fear that this happiness will not last. This is dukkha. It is not an anomaly. It is the default, unexamined human condition. If dukkha is the universal symptom, then what is the disease? The Buddha, acting as a master physician of the mind, identified the cause with surgical precision. The root of dukkha, he taught, is a condition called tanha. This Pali word can be translated as thirst, craving, désir, or, most usefully for our purpose, attachment. This is a groundbreaking diagnosis. It suggests that our suffering does not primarily come from the external events of our lives. It comes from our internal reaction to those events. It is not the rain that makes us miserable, but our attachment to the idea of a sunny day It is not another person's criticism that causes us deep pain, but our attachment to being liked and approved of. Tanha is the relentless grasping of the mind, the desperate clinging to what we want, and the violent pushing away of what we do not want. This craving, this attachment, manifests in three primary ways. The first is the most obvious, the craving for sensual pleasures. This is the thirst for pleasant sights, sounds, smells, taste, and physical sensations. It is the desire for a delicious meal, the latest gadget, beautiful music, or physical comfort. The problem, of course, is not that these things are inherently bad. Pleasure is a natural part of life. The problem is the craving for them, the clinging to them. This clinging creates a cycle of agitation. When we don't have what we want, we feel lack and frustration. When we finally get it, we are filled with the fear of losing it. And once the pleasure fades, as all pleasures do, we are left empty again, immediately seeking the next fix. This is the endless treadmill of desire that powers so much of our consumer culture and our personal restlessness. The second form of craving is more subtle, the craving for being, for existence. This is the deep, instinctual attachment to our own life, our identity, and our sense of self. It is the desire for things to be permanent, for our existence to be stable and secure. We cling to our reputation, our beliefs, our titles, our roles. We build a solid seeming story of me, and we desperately want that story to continue forever, unchanged. This craving for permanence puts us in direct conflict with the fundamental nature of reality, which is one of constant flux and impermanence. By demanding that the ever-changing river of life stand still, we guarantee our own frustration and disappointment. The third form of craving is the craving for non-being, for annihilation. This is the flip side of grasping. This is aversion. It is the intense desire to get rid of, to destroy, or to escape from unpleasant experiences. When we feel anxiety, we want to annihilate it. When we feel boredom, we want to escape it. When we deal with a difficult person, we wish they would disappear. This creates a state of constant internal warfare. We are always fighting against our own experience, pushing away feelings, resisting situations, and rejecting parts of ourselves. This resistance, this pushing away, is incredibly draining. It is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes a tremendous amount of energy, and the moment we lose focus, the unpleasant reality rushes back to the surface with even greater force. This may lead you to wonder, does this mean we should not have any goals? Should we not desire to be healthy or to provide for our families? Here, we must make a crucial distinction between a healthy aspiration, known in Buddhist psychology as chanda, and a clinging craving, which is tanha. A healthy desire is a skillful intention that motivates us. For example, I wish for my body to be healthy, so I will eat nourishing food and exercise. This is a positive, guiding force. Danya, on the other hand, is a demanding, desperate need that is laced with attachment to the outcome. I must have a perfect body, and I will be miserable. I will hate myself until I achieve it. The first is a source of wholesome motivation. The second is a direct source of dukkha, of suffering. The difference lies in the grip. Healthy desire is held with an open hand. Clinging craving is held with a clenched fist. There is a simple yet profound story that illustrates this mechanism of self-imprisonment perfectly. In some parts of Asia, a traditional method for trapping monkeys involves a hollowed-out gourd or coconut. The trappers cut a hole in it just big enough for a monkey's open hand to slide through. Inside, they place a tempting pile of rice or some other treat. Sooner or later, a monkey will come along, smell the food, and slip its hand through the narrow opening. It will then grasp a large fistful of the delicious rice. But here is the essence of the trap, with its fist clenched tightly around the rice. Its hand is now too large to pull back out through the hole. The monkey will pull and struggle and shriek in frustration and panic. But it is stuck fast. The trappers can then simply walk up and capture the terrified creature. The tragic irony is that the monkey is not being held by any external force. The gourd is not holding it. The trappers are not holding it. The monkey is being held captive by its own clenched fist, by its own attachment, by its own refusal to let go of the rice. At any moment, all it has to do to be free is to open its hand, release its grip on the prize, and its hand would slide out easily. It could scamper up the nearest tree to freedom, but its craving, its tanha, is so powerful that this simple solution does not even occur to it. It would rather be captured than release what it is clinging to. We are that monkey, and the rice is anything and everything we cling to in our lives. It could be a pleasant memory we endlessly replay. It could be our attachment to being right in an argument. It could be a grudge against someone who wronged us years ago. It could be our desire for wealth, fame, or a perfect relationship. It could even be our attachment to our own suffering. Our identity as a victim. We clench our fists around these things, believing they are essential to our happiness or survival, failing to see that they are the very bars of our own cage. We are trapped not by the world, but by our own minds, by our own refusal to simply open our hands. This realization is the second great step on our journey. We have seen the restless monkey mind, and now we see the fuel that makes it run. Tana, the relentless cycle of craving and clinging, the pervasive sense of dissatisfaction in our lives. Dukkha is not a random punishment from the universe. It is a direct result of this internal mechanism. This understanding is both daunting and incredibly empowering. If the cause of our suffering is our own attachment, then the cure must also lie within our own power. The path to freedom, the secret to pulling our hand from the trap, must be found in the art of releasing our grip. But what does it truly mean to let go? Is it an act of weakness, of apathy, of giving up on life? Or is it something else entirely? To find liberation, we must now explore the profound and often misunderstood wisdom of letting go. We have arrived at a critical turning point. We have seen the restless monkey mind, and we have identified its fuel as Tana, the relentless clinging and craving that is the root of our suffering. The story of the monkey trapped by its own clenched fist gives us a powerful clue to our liberation. The path to freedom lies in its willingness to open its hand. This leads us to the concept of letting go. And for many of us, this is where a wall of resistance can appear. The very phrase "let go" can sound like an admission of defeat in a world that glorifies striving, ambition, and control. Letting go can feel like giving up. It can sound like becoming passive, apathetic, or irresponsible. It can feel as if we are being asked to stop caring about our lives. to simply allow things to fall apart around us. This resistance is natural and understandable. It comes from a profound misunderstanding of what letting go truly means. So, before we can practice it, we must first redefine it. The first and most crucial distinction we must make is this: letting go is not the same as giving up. They may appear similar on the surface, but they come from two completely opposite states of mind. Giving up is an act of collapse, born from despair. It is the heavy, draining energy of helplessness. It is the voice that says, "This is too hard. I can't do it. There's no point in trying anymore." It is an abdication of our power and our responsibility. Letting go, on the other hand, is an act of profound strength, born from wisdom. It is a light, liberating, and empowering energy. Its voice says, "I will do everything that is within my power to do. I will act with intention, skill, and compassion, and then I will release my desperate, anxious attachment to a specific outcome, because I understand that the outcome itself is not, and has never been, fully within my control." Giving up is surrendering to failure. Letting go is surrendering to the reality of how life works, which frees us to act more effectively and peacefully within it. Imagine you are rowing a boat on a powerful river. Giving up is dropping your oars, collapsing in the bottom of the boat, and letting the chaotic currents dash you against the rocks. Letting go is continuing to use your oar to steer skillfully, to navigate with wisdom, while fully accepting the existence and the immense power of the current itself. You don't fight the river, you learn to move with it. This leads us to the core of the practice, letting go of the illusion of control. We live under a powerful, deeply conditioned illusion that we are the chief executive officer of the universe. We create meticulous 5-year plans. We have rigid expectations for how our partners and children should behave. We try to manage every variable at work, and we build elaborate defenses to prevent ourselves from ever feeling pain or discomfort. This constant effort to manage and control the uncontrollable is a primary source of our anxiety, stress, and exhaustion. We are like a person standing on the seashore, screaming at the tide to stop coming in. Reality, of course, pays no attention to our demands. A sudden illness strikes. The economy shifts. A flight is cancelled. Another person makes a choice we do not like. Life constantly reminds us that our control is limited. The practice of letting go, in this context, is the profound relief of finally admitting that we are not, in fact, in charge of the weather. It is the conscious decision to put down an impossibly heavy burden, a burden of control that we were never meant to carry in the first place. When we let go of this need to control everything, we are left with the practice of wise acceptance. And again, this is a term that is easily misunderstood. Acceptance does not mean passive resignation or condoning harmful behavior. Accepting that there is injustice in the world does not mean we approve of it or that we won't work to change it. Accepting that we are feeling a wave of deep sadness does not mean that we like the feeling or want it to stay. Wise acceptance is much simpler and more powerful than that. It is the clear, non-argumentative acknowledgement of what is. It is the ability to look at a situation, an emotion, or a physical sensation, and to simply say, "This is what is present right now," without the immediate second layer of judgment that says, "And it shouldn't be." This clear seeing is the absolutely essential first step before any skillful action can be taken. You cannot find your way out of a forest if you refuse to first accept your current location within it. Acceptance is simply seeing the "you are here" marker on the map of your life. From that point of clarity, and only from that point, can you begin to choose the wisest path forward. There is a beautiful story about the great Thai meditation master, Ajahn Chah, that illuminates this principle perfectly. One day, he was teaching a group of students, and he held up a simple, elegant drinking glass. "For me," he said, "this glass is already broken." He continued, "I enjoy it. I drink water from it. It reflects the light beautifully, but I know that its fundamental nature is to be breakable sooner or later. The wind will knock it over, or my own hand will slip, and it will fall to the floor and shatter into 100 pieces." The students were puzzled. The glass was clearly intact, whole and perfect in his hand. Ajahn Chah explained, "Because I see its nature as already broken, I am able to appreciate it fully. Right now, I cherish its presence. And so, when it eventually does break, it will not come as a terrible shock. I will not be filled with devastation or despair. I will simply look at the pieces on the floor and say, of course, this is the very essence of letting go. It is the practice of seeing everything in our lives through the lens of this profound wisdom. This body that we inhabit is already aging. This job that we have is already changing. This precious relationship is already evolving. This moment of happiness is already passing. This is not a morbid or pessimistic outlook. It is the secret to true appreciation and the antidote to suffering. When you understand, deep in your bones, that everything is temporary and fragile, you begin to cherish it more deeply. You stop taking things for granted. The love you feel becomes more precious. The beauty you see becomes more poignant. The joy you experience becomes more complete, precisely because you know it will not last forever. Letting go is this internal posture of seeing the world as already broken. It releases us from the inevitable shock and suffering when things change. And it liberates us to love and live more fully and freely in the present. Finally, it is crucial to understand that letting go is not a single act, but a continuous practice. It is not like flipping a switch and being free forever. Our minds have been conditioned over decades to grasp, to cling, to control, and to resist. These patterns run deep. Letting go is a muscle that we must train, patiently and kindly. Every single day, we will find our fist has clenched again without us even noticing. We will find ourselves resisting reality, fighting with our feelings, demanding that life conform to our wishes. The practice is not to berate ourselves for this. The practice is simply to notice the tension in the body, the tightness in the mind, the familiar feeling of struggle, and in that moment of noticing, to gently, compassionately, and intentionally open the hand again, and then, an hour later, to open it again, and tomorrow, to open it again. It is a lifelong, moment-to-moment process of returning to a state of release and surrendering to the flow of life. This path of letting go, of releasing the illusion of control and wisely accepting reality, is the way we pull our hand from the trap. It is not an act of weakness, but an expression of the highest wisdom. But this can feel abstract. When you are caught in a storm of anxiety, when the monkey mind is screaming, how do you actually do this? How do you apply this wisdom in the heat of the moment to let go of our struggle with reality? We first need to be able to ground ourselves in that reality, to be fully present with what is happening right here and now. We need an anchor. We need a way to step out of the chaotic storyline in our heads and into the direct experience of the present moment. This requires a fundamental human capacity, a powerful inner tool that is always with you, waiting to be used. That tool is called mindfulness, and our exploration of this essential practice begins with the most simple, reliable, and life-giving anchor. We have the breath. We have explored the profound wisdom of letting go, of releasing our tight-fisted grip on the illusion of control and accepting reality as it is. This is the what of our practice. Now we must turn to the how. How, in a practical, moment-to-moment sense. Do we actually do this? When the mind is a whirlwind of anxiety and the body is tense with resistance, what is the tool we use to find our way back to a place of balance and clarity? The answer is both incredibly simple and profoundly powerful. We begin with a practice called mindfulness, and the gateway to all mindfulness. The primary tool in our toolkit is something you are already doing right now. It is your breath. Think about it. What is the one constant companion that is with you from the moment you are born to the very moment you die? It is your breath. It is always here. A steady, rhythmic process happening in the background of your life. And most importantly, the breath has a special quality. It only ever exists in the present moment. You cannot take a breath that is in the past. You cannot take a breath that is in the future. To be aware of your breathing is, by definition, to be present. The mind, as we know, loves to travel. It wanders into the past to ruminate on regrets, or it rockets into the future to rehearse anxieties. This is its nature. The body, however, can only ever be right here, right now. This disconnection between a mind lost in time and a body existing in the present is a fundamental source of our stress and unease. The breath is the magical, ever-present bridge that brings them back together. When you consciously bring your full attention to the physical, sensory experience of breathing, you are pulling your wandering mind out of the abstract world of thought and anchoring it firmly in the concrete reality of your body, in the living truth of this very moment. The practice itself is beautifully simple. You do not need any special equipment or beliefs. It begins by finding a posture that is both comfortable and alert. You can sit in a chair with your feet flat on the floor, or on a cushion on the ground. The key is to keep your back relatively straight, not rigid, but in a way that allows for the breath to move freely. You can gently close your eyes, or if you prefer, simply lower your gaze to a soft focus a few feet in front of you. And then, you simply bring your attention to the feeling of your breath. Wherever you feel it most clearly in your body, there is no need to change it, to force it, or to make it deeper or slower. Your only task is to observe it, just as it is. For some, the most obvious place to rest the attention is at the tip of the nostrils, feeling the subtle sensation of the cool air entering on the in-breath and the slightly warmer air leaving on the out-breath. For others, a clearer anchor point is the abdomen, feeling the gentle expansion, the rise of the belly on the in-breath, and the gentle contraction, the falling of the belly on the out-breath. Choose one spot and let your attention rest there, as lightly as a butterfly landing on a flower. Now, Here is the most important instruction of all. Sooner or later, your mind will wander. It will be distracted by a sound, a physical sensation, or, most likely, a thought. A worry will pop up. A memory will surface. A plan will begin to form. This is not a mistake. It is not a sign that you are failing or that you are bad at meditation. It is simply what minds do. The goal of this practice is not to have a perfectly empty mind. The goal is to notice when the mind has wandered. That moment of noticing, that moment you realize, I am no longer with my breath. I am thinking. That moment is a moment of pure mindfulness. And in that moment, without any judgment, without any scolding or frustration, you simply and gently escort your attention back to your chosen anchor, back to the feeling of the breath at the nostrils, or the rising and falling of the abdomen. That is the entire practice. The mind wanders. You notice, and you gently return, over and over and over again. Every time you do this, every time you guide your attention back, you are strengthening the muscle of your awareness. You are training your mind, just as you would train a puppy, with kindness, patience, and gentle repetition. This simple act has profound physiological effects. Our body has an autonomic nervous system, which operates largely without our conscious control. It has two main branches. The sympathetic nervous system is our gas pedal. It triggers the fight or flight response, flooding us with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This is the system that fuels the monkey mind. The parasympathetic nervous system is our brake pedal. It governs the rest and digest response, promoting calm and relaxation. The simple act of breathing consciously, especially when the exhale is made slightly longer than the inhale, is one of the most effective ways to manually engage our body's brake pedal. It stimulates a critical nerve called the vagus nerve, which is the main superhighway of the parasympathetic nervous system. When this nerve is stimulated, it sends a powerful signal throughout the body, telling the heart to slow down, telling the blood pressure to lower, telling the muscles to relax. It is a direct message sent from your conscious mind to your ancient alarm system, informing it that there is no tiger, that you are safe, and that it can stand down. This is not a mystical belief. It is verifiable human biology. By practicing mindful breathing, you are actively changing your own physiology, calming the storm from the inside out. The beauty of this practice is that it is not confined to a meditation cushion. The breath is your portable sanctuary, your ever-present anchor that you can use anytime, anywhere. You can practice for 30 seconds while waiting for a red light to turn green. You can take 3 conscious breaths before walking into a difficult meeting. You can anchor yourself in the feeling of your breath when you feel a wave of anger or frustration rising within you. It is a reset button for your nervous system that is always available. Imagine your mind is a small boat on a vast, stormy ocean. The chaotic thoughts and turbulent emotions are the towering waves and the howling winds that threaten to overwhelm you and capsize your vessel. The breath is the heavy, stable anchor. When you pay attention to your breath, you are dropping that anchor deep beneath the surface turmoil, down to the calm, quiet stillness of the ocean floor. The storm on the surface may continue to rage for a while, but the anchor holds your boat steady. It keeps you from being swept away by the currents of reactivity and fear. The practice is learning to reside in the steadfast stability of the anchor, rather than being endlessly tossed about by the waves on the surface. There is an old story that captures this perfectly. Imagine you must cross a very deep and wide canyon, and the only way across is a long, narrow, rickety suspension bridge. As you step onto the bridge, a fierce storm erupts. The wind howls, the rain lashes down, and the bridge begins to sway violently from side to side. Your heart pounds in your chest. If you make the mistake of looking down into the terrifying rocky chasm below, you will become paralyzed with fear. If you look around at the overwhelming chaos of the storm, you will become disoriented and lose your balance. A wise old traveler once told you the secret to crossing such a bridge: you must ignore the chasm below and the storm around you. You must bring all of your attention, all of your awareness, and focus it entirely on the single, solid, wooden plank directly in front of your feet. Once you take a step onto that plank, you shift your focus to the very next plank. One plank, one step, then the next, and the next. That is the only way to cross safely. In the storms of our lives, that single wooden plank is our breath. The chasm is the abyss of our future fears and worst-case scenarios. The storm is the overwhelming chaos of our thoughts and emotions. When life feels precarious and overwhelming, the wisest and safest thing we can do is to withdraw our attention from the drama and to place it entirely on the simple, solid, undeniable reality of our next in-breath and our next out-breath. This simple, focused attention will guide you, step by step, safely across the most turbulent passages of your life. We have now found our anchor. We have learned how to stabilize our attention and calm our nervous system using this incredible tool that is always with us. Now that we have established this foundation of stability, we can begin to gently broaden our field of awareness. We can use this newfound steadiness to shine a light of gentle attention into the wider landscape of our own body, a place that silently holds so much of our unspoken tension, our stored emotions, and our life's history. Having found our anchor in the gentle, rhythmic tide of the breath, we have established a foundation of stability. We have learned to steady the boat of the mind, even as the surface of the water remains active. Now, with this newfound steadiness, we can begin to explore the vessel itself. We can turn our attention from the anchor to the very house our mind lives in, our own body. For most of us, the body is treated like a taxi service for the head. Its primary purpose is to carry the brain from one meeting to the next. A vehicle to be fueled, occasionally serviced, and mostly ignored. Unless it breaks down in pain or illness, we live almost exclusively from the neck up, lost in a world of concepts, plans, and digital distractions, while the vast, intelligent, and feeling landscape of the body remains largely unconscious territory. Yet, the body holds a profound wisdom. It is, in many ways, our subconscious mind made manifest. It keeps a faithful record of our entire life's experience. Every joy, every fear, every moment of stress, and every unresolved trauma leaves an imprint, not just in our memory, but in our very tissues. Think of the common phrases we use in our language, phrases that reveal this deep truth. We speak of having a knot in the stomach when we are anxious. We talk about a heavy heart in times of grief. We carry the weight of the world on our shoulders when we are stressed. These are not just metaphors, they are literal. physical descriptions of emotional energy held in the body. Over time, this accumulated tension becomes our new normal. The clenched jaw, the raised shoulders, the shallow breathing, this chronic state of armor becomes so familiar that we cease to notice it. The purpose of the body scan meditation is to gently and systematically reawaken our awareness, to dissolve this armor, and to learn to listen once again to the subtle, intelligent language of our physical selves. The intention of this practice is crucial. The goal is not necessarily to feel relaxed, although relaxation is a very common and welcome side effect. The primary goal is awareness. It is about replacing our abstract idea of our body with the direct, intimate, felt experience of it. We have a mental concept of our feet, but it is a rare moment when we actually stop and truly feel the life that is humming within them. This practice is an act of profound kindness, a journey of coming home to ourselves. To begin, if possible, find a place where you can lie down comfortably on your back, perhaps on a yoga mat, a blanket, or even your bed. If lying down isn't feasible, sitting in a chair is perfectly fine. Let your arms rest by your sides, palms facing up as a gesture of openness, and allow your feet to fall gently outwards. Take a moment to feel the weight of your body, to notice the points of contact with the surface beneath you, your heels, your calves, your hips, your shoulders, your head. Take 2 or 3 slow, conscious breaths, and with each exhale, feel yourself arriving more fully in this space. In this moment, now, bring your full, undivided attention down to the toes of your left foot. You don't need to wiggle them or move them. Simply bring your awareness there. See if you can feel each toe individually. You might notice sensations of warmth, or coolness, or tingling. You might feel the contact of one toe against another, or the feeling of a sock against your skin, or you might feel nothing at all, a kind of numbness. That is perfectly fine. The absence of sensation is also a sensation. Just notice whatever is present, without judgment. Now, gently allow your awareness to expand, to fill the entire sole of your left foot, the heel resting on the floor, the top of the foot, just feeling, just noticing, slowly, like a warm, gentle wave. Let this awareness move up into your left ankle, your lower leg, your shin, and your calf muscle. Then, let it travel up into your knee, noticing the complex sensations of this joint, and then into the large muscles of your thigh, all the way up to your left hip. For a moment, hold your entire left leg in this field of kind awareness, from the tips of your toes to the top of your hip. Then, gently release your attention from the left leg and bring it all the way down to the toes of your right foot, beginning the same patient, a curious journey on the other side, moving slowly from the toes to the foot, the ankle, the lower leg, the knee, and the thigh, simply registering the landscape of physical sensation as you go. Now, bring your awareness into the pelvic region, the hips, the buttocks, the base of your spine. Let your attention sweep up into your abdomen, noticing the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall with each breath. See if you can soften any tension held here. Then, move your awareness into your lower back an area that often holds chronic tension, and then up into your chest, again feeling the expansion with the in-breath and the release with the out-breath. Allow this field of awareness to include your upper back and your shoulder blades, feeling their weight and contact with the floor from your shoulders. Let your attention flow down your left arm, through the upper arm, the elbow, the forearm, into your left hand, and all the way to the tips of your fingers. Notice the palms, the back of the hand. Is there pulsing, tingling warmth then? Repeat this process on the right side, letting the gentle spotlight of your awareness travel down your right arm to the very tips of your right fingers. Gently, bring your attention now to your neck and your throat, another common reservoir of stress. Without needing to change anything, simply notice what is there. Let the awareness move up into your jaw. See if you can consciously soften the hinge of the jaw, letting the teeth part slightly. Allow your lips and your tongue to be soft. Let this softness spread into your cheeks, around your eyes, smoothing out the tiny muscles there, and up into your forehead, releasing any furrows of worry. Finally, bring your awareness to the very top of your head, the entire scalp, feeling it as a field of sensation. And now, for a few moments, expand your awareness to include your entire body at once. From the top of your head to the tips of your toes, feel your whole body as a single, unified field of sensation, held in this kind, a spacious awareness, breathing as one whole being. During this journey, you will inevitably encounter areas of tension, discomfort, or even pain. Our conditioned instinct when we meet these sensations is to recoil, to tense up against them, to mentally brace ourselves or wish them away. The practice of the body scan invites us to do the radical opposite. When you find a knot of tension in your shoulder or an ache in your lower back, instead of fighting it, you gently turn your attention towards it. You meet it with curiosity and kindness. You can practice breathing into the sensation. As you breathe in, imagine your breath could travel directly to that spot, bringing it warm, oxygenated, spacious energy. As you breathe out, imagine a softening, a letting go, a gentle release around that sensation. We are not trying to force the pain to disappear. We are changing our fundamental relationship to it. We are replacing aversion and struggle with acceptance and care. And often, miraculously, when a sensation is met with this kind of open, allowing awareness, it begins to soften and dissolve on its own accord. Think of your body as a house that you live in. Over the years of distraction and neglect, many of the rooms have been locked and forgotten. Cobwebs of tension have formed in the corners. Layers of dusty, unfelt emotions have settled on the furniture. The practice of the body scan is like taking a gentle lantern and deciding to visit every single room of your home. You are not going in with a harsh scrub brush to violently clean everything. You are simply walking in, opening the curtains to let in the sunlight, opening the windows to let in the fresh air of the breath. You are just seeing what is there. By shining the gentle light of awareness into these forgotten corners, we are not judging the mess. We are reclaiming our home. We are making our body a brighter, healthier, and more vibrant place to live. We are, quite literally, coming home to ourselves. This practice of listening to the body's physical language, of becoming intimate with its landscape, prepares us for an even more subtle challenge. We have learned to sit with physical discomfort with a degree of acceptance. Now, we must learn to apply this very same principle of kind, non-judgmental awareness to the ever-shifting weather patterns of the mind itself, to the endless stream of thoughts and the powerful waves of emotion they create. How can we learn to watch these internal storms without being capsized and swept away by them? We have journeyed from the anchor of the breath into the living landscape of the body, learning to listen to its subtle language with kindness. Now, we turn our awareness inward to face the most elusive, powerful, and often tyrannical force in our lives, the ceaseless stream of our own thoughts. For most of us, we do not experience our thoughts as optional events. We experience them as reality itself. We are completely fused with them. A thought arises that says, "I am not good enough." And in that instant, we become the feeling of inadequacy. A thought of a future event sparks worry, and we become anxiety. There is no space, no separation between the thought and our sense of self. This fusion is the very engine of our emotional suffering. The practice we will now explore is the art of creating space. It is the revolutionary act of learning to see our thoughts not as who we are, but simply as something that we experience, as mental events that arise and pass away within the vastness of our consciousness. To begin, let us use a powerful and classic metaphor. Imagine that your true nature, your fundamental awareness, is like a vast, open, and brilliant blue sky. It is boundless, clear, and inherently peaceful. Now, imagine that all of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations are like the clouds that drift through this sky. Sometimes, the clouds are light, white, and fluffy. These are our pleasant thoughts, our happy memories, our daydreams. They drift by gently, and we enjoy them. At other times, the clouds are dark, heavy, and full of thunder and lightning. These are our anxious thoughts, our angry thoughts, our harsh self-judgments, our painful memories. Sometimes, the sky can become so completely overcast with these thick, grey clouds that we forget the blue sky is even there. We believe that the storm is the only reality, but here is the essential truth: no matter how dark or violent the storm clouds become, they never stain, damage, or fundamentally change the nature of the sky itself. The sky is always there, vast, untouched, and perfect, patiently waiting behind the weather. The clouds are temporary events that pass through the sky, but they are not the sky. Our work, our practice, is to learn to shift our identification. We must learn to stop believing we are the cloud, and instead, learn to rest as the vast, open sky, which has more than enough room to allow any and all weather patterns to come and go without resistance. This might sound like a beautiful idea, but how do we actually do it? One of the most effective techniques is a practice called mental noting or labeling. As you sit in meditation, or even as you go about your day, you begin to notice the content of your mind. When a thought about something you need to do later arises, instead of getting swept away into the details of the plan, you can gently and silently say to yourself, planning. When a memory from your childhood appears, you can simply note, remembering. When a voice of self-criticism starts to speak, you can label it, judging. When a wave of worry about the future washes over you, you can acknowledge it, worrying. The purpose of this is not to analyze the thought or to get rid of it, The purpose is simply to recognize it for what it is, a type of mental event. This simple act of labeling transforms the thought from a subjective reality that has hijacked you into an objective event that you are observing. It creates immediate distance and clarity. It is the difference between being lost in a storm and watching the storm from the window of a safe and solid house. Another powerful way to practice this is to consciously change the language you use in your own mind. Our habitual language reinforces our fusion with our thoughts. We say, "I am sad." The I and the sadness are one. We can practice creating space by shifting this language. Instead of, "I am sad," you can rephrase it as, "I notice that a feeling of sadness is present in me right now." Can you feel the difference? The first statement is a solid, heavy declaration of identity. The second is a light, spacious observation of a temporary state. Instead of, "I'm a failure," try, "I am having the thought that I am a failure." Instantly, the thought is revealed for what it is, just a thought. It is not an absolute truth carved in stone. It is a passing mental event. This subtle linguistic shift is revolutionary. It moves you from the position of being the victim of your thoughts and feelings to the position of being the calm, empowered witness of them. We often believe that our thoughts, especially our negative ones, are incredibly powerful and dangerous. We feel we must either fight them or obey them. But what if a thought, in and of itself, has no power at all? A thought is just a little wisp of energy in the brain, a fleeting combination of words, images, and electrical impulses. A thought like, "You are worthless," is, in reality, just a sound, just a sentence. It has no more inherent power than the sound of the wind in the trees. So where does its devastating power come from? It comes from us. We give a thought its power when we grant it our belief. We give it power when we identify with it. We give it power when we grab onto it, feed it with our attention, and allow it to become the narrator of our reality. By learning to observe our thoughts without automatically believing them, we cut off their fuel supply. We starve them of the power they need to make us suffer. There is a classic Zen story that perfectly illustrates this process. A man is rowing his boat on a large lake one morning, and a thick, dense fog has settled over the water. He is feeling calm and peaceful, enjoying the silence and the stillness. Suddenly, with a loud thud, another boat crashes violently into the side of his peace is instantly shattered. He is filled with a hot surge of anger. He opens his mouth and begins to shout into the fog, "Hey, are you blind? Watch where you're going. You idiot, what's wrong with you?" He works himself into a full-blown rage, imagining the careless, inconsiderate person in the other boat who has ruined his tranquil morning. As he continues to yell, breathing heavily with indignation, the fog slowly begins to lift. He looks over and finally sees the boat that hit him, and he sees that it is just an empty boat. It had simply come untied from its mooring and had silently drifted into him on the current. In that instant, all of his anger completely vanishes. It evaporates as quickly as the fog. There was no one to be angry at. There was no malicious intent. There was just an event. Our thoughts and feelings are like that empty boat. A difficult thought, a thought of fear, or shame, or inadequacy drifts into our consciousness. Our immediate, conditioned reaction is to behave like the man in the fog. We project intent onto it. We believe the thought is here to attack us. that it is a personal affront, that it is proof that we are broken. We create a story around it, and then we react to our own story with anger, fear, or despair. We struggle with the empty boat, believing it is a dangerous enemy. The practice of mindfulness is the lifting of the fog. It allows us to see our thoughts clearly for what they are: impersonal, empty events that have simply drifted into our awareness. They are not personal attacks. They are the natural, conditioned products of our brain and our past experiences. They have no malicious intent. When we can see this clearly, our struggle with them can dissolve. Just as the man's anger dissolved when he saw that the boat was empty, we have learned that we are the sky, not the clouds that pass through it. We have discovered practical tools like labeling and shifting our language to help us disidentify from the content of our minds. We have understood, through the story of the empty boat, that thoughts are impersonal events that only have the power that our belief gives them. This practice of observing our thoughts inevitably brings us face to face with their immediate children, our emotions. A thought of loss gives rise to the feeling of grief. A thought of injustice gives rise to the feeling of anger. Now that we have learned not to be swept away by the initial thought, how do we skillfully handle the powerful B2s, energetic waves of emotion that follow in its wake? How can we learn to feel our feelings fully, even the most painful and difficult ones, without being drowned by them? This vital question leads us directly to the profound teaching of the second arrow. We have learned to create a space of observation around our thoughts, to see them as passing clouds rather than as the sky itself. This is a practice of immense liberation, but often, trailing right behind a thought, is its powerful, energetic child, an emotion. A thought of a past hurt gives rise to the raw feeling of anger. A thought of a future threat gives rise to the visceral feeling of fear. A thought of inadequacy gives rise to the heavy feeling of shame. Our relationship with these difficult emotions is often where our greatest struggles lie. Our conditioned instinct when a painful feeling arises is to do one of two things. We either suppress it or we amplify it. Suppression is the attempt to push the feeling down, to ignore it, to numb ourselves with distraction, believing that if we don't look at it, it will go away. Amplification is the opposite. We get completely lost in the feeling, fueling it with a dramatic storyline, replaying it over and over in our minds, and spinning it into a catastrophe. Both of these strategies are forms of resistance. Both require a huge amount of energy, and both, ultimately, fail, leaving the emotion to fester, unresolved within us. There is, however, a third way, a middle path, a way of meeting our emotions with mindful presence, courage, and wisdom. This path is beautifully illuminated by one of the most practical and profound teachings of the Buddha, the parable of the second arrow. The Buddha said that in life, we cannot always avoid the first arrow. The first arrow is the unavoidable, objective pain of human existence. It is the physical pain of a headache, an injury, or an illness. It is the emotional pain of experiencing a loss, of being criticized, of facing disappointment. These things are a natural part of life. They happen to everyone, even to the most enlightened beings. To be struck by a first arrow is simply to be alive. The real source of our prolonged suffering, the Buddha taught, comes from the second arrow. The second arrow is the one we shoot at ourselves. Immediately after being struck by the first, If the first arrow is the initial pain of being criticized, the second arrow is our reaction to it. It is the arrow of anger, how dare they say that to me? It is the arrow of self-pity. Why does this always happen to me? It is the arrow of judgment. I shouldn't be feeling so upset about this. I should be stronger. It is the arrow of fear. This feeling is terrible. What if it never goes away? The pain of the first arrow is real, but it is often manageable and temporary. The suffering created by the endless volley of second, third, and fourth arrows that we shoot at ourselves is what becomes toxic, overwhelming, and enduring. Our practice, therefore, is not about trying to build a shield that is impervious to all of life's first arrows. That is an impossible task. Our practice is to learn how not to pick up the bow and shoot ourselves with the second arrow. So, how do we do this? How do we stay present with the sting of the first arrow without immediately launching the second? We learn the art of sitting with the emotion. This means that when a difficult feeling arises, we pause. We resist the urge to immediately react, to suppress, or to amplify. Instead, we turn our attention inward, and we shift our focus from the story in our head to the direct, physical sensations in our body. Where do you feel this emotion? If it is anxiety, is it a fluttering in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a coldness in your hands? If it is anger, is it a burning heat in your face and chest, a tightness in your jaw, a pulsing energy in your fists? The invitation is to drop the label for a moment, the word anxiety or anger, and to simply investigate the raw, physical data, experience the feeling as pure energy, as heat, pressure, vibration, tightness, or coolness. By relating to the emotion on this fundamental, somatic level, we strip it of its conceptual story. It is no longer my terrible anxiety, which is a heavy, personal burden. It becomes an experience of heat and pressure in the chest, which is an impersonal, observable phenomenon. To help us navigate this process, especially in the heat of the moment, we can use a powerful and memorable framework known as R-I-N. It is a 4-step meditation that serves as a life raft in the midst of an emotional storm. The R stands for recognize. This is the first, crucial step of acknowledging what is present. Without judgment, we simply name what we are feeling. We can say to ourselves, this is grief, or shame is here right now, or this is anger. This simple act of recognition brings the emotion out of the shadows of unconscious reactivity and into the gentle light of awareness. It stops the cycle of mindless reaction. The A stands for allow. This is the heart of letting go. Having recognized the feeling, we give it permission to be there. We stop fighting it. We don't have to like it. We don't have to want it. But for this moment, we stop struggling against the reality that it is already here. The inner whisper is simply, this feeling is present. Let it be. This is the moment we consciously decide not to shoot the second arrow of resistance. The I stands for investigate with kindness. Now, we gently turn towards the feeling with a soft curiosity. We are not interrogating it or analyzing it to death. We are getting to know it. We can ask gentle questions. Where is this feeling located in my body? What are its physical qualities? Is it sharp or dull? Hot or cold? Moving or still? What does this feeling believe about me or the world? What does this vulnerable part of me need right now? The phrase "with kindness" is essential. We are approaching our own pain as we would approach a small, frightened child, not with harshness or judgment, but with tenderness and care. Finally, the N stands for nurture and non-identification. First, after investigating our pain, we offer ourselves a gesture of compassion, of nurturing. This can be as simple as placing a hand over your heart and silently offering yourself some kind words. This is so difficult. May I be gentle with myself in this moment. It is an act of active self-compassion. Second, we practice non-identification. We rest back into the awareness of ourselves as the sky, not the storm. We recognize that while this feeling is powerful, it is an event passing through us. It is not the totality of who we are. We can hold it with space, knowing, this is not me, this is not mine, this is just weather. When we practice in this way, we discover a profound truth about emotions. They are impermanent, just like the weather. They arise, they stay for a while, and if we allow them to, they will naturally pass. When we fight an emotion, when we suppress it or resist it, we trap its energy inside us. We are like a dam holding back a river, creating immense pressure. When we practice allowing, when we are willing to feel the energy of the emotion fully in our body without fueling it with more stories, we allow the river to flow. The wave of emotion will arise. It will crest, and it will eventually, inevitably, subside, leaving the shores of our mind calm once again. Our willingness to feel it is the very thing that allows it to heal and to pass. We cannot avoid the first arrows of life. Pain, loss, and disappointment are woven into the fabric of our existence. But we have a choice. We have the power to stop creating our own unnecessary suffering by learning not to shoot the second arrow of reaction, by learning to meet our emotions as pure energy in the body, and by using compassionate frameworks like R, as C, I, N. We can cultivate the courage and wisdom to navigate even the most difficult inner landscapes. This ability to face our own inner world with acceptance is a profound skill. It is built upon a deep, intuitive understanding of a universal law that governs not only our emotions, but every single aspect of existence. To truly liberate ourselves from the desperate clinging that causes all our suffering, we must now turn our full attention to this most fundamental of truths, the truth of impermanence. We have learned to sit with the powerful waves of our emotions, to meet them with kindness, and to allow them to pass without being swept away. This experience of watching an emotion arise, crest, and dissolve points us toward a deeper, more universal truth, a law that governs not only our inner world but the entire cosmos. This is one of the most foundational insights of Buddhist wisdom, encapsulated in the Pali word anicca, which means impermanence. At first glance, the idea of impermanence can sound pessimistic or nihilistic, a grim reminder that everything ends. But to see it this way is to miss its profound and liberating beauty. Understanding impermanence is not about dwelling on endings. It is about learning to live fully in the reality of continuous change. In truth, our suffering rarely comes from the fact that things change. It comes from our desperate demand that they stay the same, a demand that puts us in a constant, losing battle with the very nature of reality. To grasp this truth, we need only to open our eyes and observe. The evidence of anicca is all around us. Look to the natural world, the unceasing cycle of the seasons, a flower that blooms in glory for a few days and then withers and returns to the earth. The sun that rises and inevitably sets. The river that is never the same body of water from one moment to the next. The entire universe is not a static object. It is a dynamic, unfolding process, a dance of creation and dissolution. Now, turn this observation inward. Your own body is a perfect classroom for studying impermanence. It is never the same from one moment to the next. Billions of cells are dying and being replaced as you listen to these words. Your body is aging, shifting, healing, and breaking down continuously. The body you have today is not the same body you had 10 years ago, and it will not be the same body you have 10 years from now. It is not a solid entity, but a flowing river of biological processes. Our minds are an even more vivid demonstration of radical impermanence. As we have already seen, our thoughts, feelings, and moods are the most fleeting of phenomena. A moment of joy arises, and we wish it would last forever. But it gives way to a moment of neutrality or even sadness. An intense wave of anger can feel all-consuming, as if it will never end. But it too eventually subsides. No mental state is permanent. They are like the weather, constantly changing, forever in flux. The same is true for all our external circumstances. Relationships begin, they evolve, and sometimes they end. People we love grow and change. We find a job, we lose a job, we move to a new city. Our entire life is a testament to this law of ceaseless change. The reason this universal truth causes us so much pain is simple. It is in direct conflict with our deepest craving. Our tenure. Our minds are conditioned to seek security, stability, and permanence in a world that can offer none of these things. We fall in love and desperately cling to our partner, fearing the day they might change or leave. We achieve a moment of success or perfect happiness, and we try to freeze it, to make it last forever, only to feel immense disappointment when the feeling fades. We cling to our youth and our physical strength, resisting the natural and inevitable process of aging, and we suffer when we see the first grey hair or feel a new ache in our body. We are like a person trying to build a solid stone castle on the surface of a flowing river. Our project is doomed from the start, and the frantic effort of trying to hold it all together against the powerful current is the very definition of stress and suffering. But here is the liberating secret when we stop fighting the current and learn to flow with it. Impermanence transforms from a source of dread into a profound source of peace, appreciation, and hope. Firstly, a deep understanding of impermanence cultivates a radical appreciation for the present moment. When you know, in your bones, that something is temporary and precious, you cherish it more fully. Think of a spectacular sunset. Part of its breathtaking beauty comes from the knowledge that it is fleeting. It will only last for a few minutes. Because of this, you give it your full, undivided attention. You don't take it for granted. The same principle applies to everything in our lives. Knowing that our time with a loved one is not infinite allows us to be more present, more kind, more appreciative of them right now. Knowing that a moment of simple joy is a passing gift allows us to savor it completely, without the need to cling to it. Secondly, impermanence is a wellspring of hope, especially in times of difficulty. When you are in the midst of deep pain, grief, or despair, the mind often tells you, This will last forever. Anika is the gentle, wise voice that replies, "This, too, it shall pass. No state is permanent, including suffering. The pain you are feeling now will change. The difficult situation you are trapped in will evolve. The dark storm clouds of your mind will, eventually, part to reveal the blue sky." Impermanence is a universal guarantee that change is always possible, that no prison of circumstance or emotion is a life sentence. It is the promise of dawn after the longest night. There is a powerful story from the life of the Buddha that poignantly illustrates this journey from resisting impermanence to wisely accepting it. A young woman named Kisa Gotami lived in a village and had an infant son whom she adored more than anything in the world. One day, the child fell ill and died. Kisa Gotami was driven mad with grief. She refused to accept that her son was gone. She picked up his small, lifeless body and wandered through the streets of her village, going from door to door, desperately begging everyone she met for a medicine that could bring him back to life. The villagers saw her plight. Some mocked her madness, while others pitied her deeply. But no one could offer the medicine she sought. Finally, a compassionate man advised her to go and see the Buddha, saying that if anyone could help her, it would be him. Kisa Gotami rushed to the Buddha, laid her child at his feet, and explained her story, begging him for the miracle medicine. The Buddha looked at her with immense compassion and told her that he could help her. However, he said, there was one ingredient she must first procure. He asked her to go back into the village and bring him a single mustard seed from a house where no one, no child, parent, spouse, or servant had ever died. Filled with a surge of hope, Kisa Gotami went from door to door once again. At the first house, a kind woman said, "Of course, I can give you a mustard seed." But when Kisa Gotami asked, "Has anyone in your family ever died?" the woman's face fell. "Oh, child," she said, "the living are few, but the dead are many. We lost my husband just last year." Kisa Gotami went to the next house, and the next, and the next. The story was the same everywhere. Every family was happy to give her a mustard seed, but every family had been touched by death. One had lost a daughter, another, a father, another, a beloved cousin. There was not a single household in the entire village that had not known loss. As she continued her journey, a profound transformation began to take place within her. She realized that her own, all-consuming grief was not a unique punishment inflicted only upon her. It was a shared, universal human experience. The sharp, isolating edges of her personal tragedy began to soften as she connected with the universal truth of loss. She saw that death was not an enemy that had unfairly attacked her family. It was a natural, unavoidable part of the life cycle for everyone. She went to the outskirts of the village, gently laid her son's body down, and returned to the Buddha. He looked at her and asked, "Have you brought the mustard seed?" She replied, "No, my lord. The dead are more numerous than the living. I have understood your teaching." In that moment, through her direct experience, Kisa Gotami had awakened to the truth of impermanence. She was no longer at war with reality, and in that acceptance, she found the beginning of her peace. The law of anicca, of impermanence, is not a grim philosophy to be debated. It is a liberating truth to be witnessed in every moment. Resisting this fundamental law is the path to endless struggle and suffering. Learning to accept it, to flow with it, is the path to peace, appreciation, and freedom. This deep contemplation of the ceaseless, flowing nature of reality naturally pushes us toward an even more startling and profound question. If everything we can observe is in a constant state of flux, our body changing, our feelings shifting, our thoughts appearing and disappearing, then what is this I that we are so desperately trying to protect? If every single component of what we call me is impermanent, where can a solid, stable, unchanging self possibly be found? This radical inquiry into the very nature of our identity is the next step on our journey, a step that takes us to the very heart of liberation, to the teaching of no self, or anatta. We have journeyed into the profound truth of impermanence, anicca, seeing that everything in our experience, from our bodies to our thoughts to the world around us, is in a state of constant, ceaseless flow. This is a crucial insight. It loosens our grip on the fleeting phenomena we try to possess. But now, we must turn this powerful lens of investigation onto the most fundamental object of our clinging, the very center of our universe, the sense of I. We go through life with the unquestioned assumption that there is a solid, stable, continuous me at the controls, a thinker behind the thoughts, a feeler behind the feelings, a permanent self who is the protagonist of our life story. This clinging to the idea of a self is the deepest and most subtle of all our attachments. To gently investigate this self and to see its true nature is to approach the very heart of liberation. This is the teaching of anatta, often translated as no self or not self. This is perhaps the most challenging, counterintuitive, and ultimately the most freeing of all the Buddha's insights. This teaching is not a philosophical dogma to be blindly believed. It is an invitation to conduct your own investigation. The Buddha, acting as a brilliant psychologist, suggested that we deconstruct our experience to see if we can find this solid self we're so sure is there. He broke down what we call a person into 5 distinct categories or aggregates. The invitation is to look into each of these 5 aspects of our experience and ask a simple question. Is this the permanent, unchanging me? Is this truly who I am? The first aggregate is form. This is our physical body, our flesh, bones, organs, and all the physical sensations associated with it. Is this body the real me? We have already seen through the lens of impermanence that this cannot be so. The body is in a constant state of flux. It ages, it gets sick, it gets injured, and it is made of components that are constantly being replaced. It is a process, not a static thing, and it is ultimately beyond our command. If the body were truly me, we should be able to command it. Do not get old, do not get sick, but we cannot. So, the body is not a permanent, solid self. It is something we experience, something we have, but it is not what we are. The second aggregate is feeling. This refers to the raw sensations that arise from contact with the world, which are categorized as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Are you your feelings if you were pet? Yourself would be dying and being reborn every few seconds. One moment you feel happy, the next you feel bored, the next you feel irritated. Feelings are like the fastest changing weather, completely unreliable and fleeting. They arise and they vanish. They cannot possibly be the stable, enduring self we are searching for. The third aggregate is perception. This is the faculty of recognition and labeling. It is the part of the mind that identifies. That is a tree. This is the color red. That sound is a car horn. Is this labeling process the real me? This too cannot be the self-laugh, as our perceptions are deeply conditioned by our past, our culture or language, and our mood. Two people can perceive the exact same event in completely different ways. Our perceptions are not objective truth. They are conditioned interpretations, and they change. The fourth aggregate is mental formations. This is a broad and crucial category that includes all of our volitional activities, our intentions, habits, opinions, beliefs, desire, aversions, and all our complex psychological reactions like jealousy, pride, and compassion. This is the active, churning, story-making part of the mind. Is this the self? Are you your anger? Are you your political opinions? Are you your desire for coffee in the morning? Clearly not. We can change our opinions. Our anger arises and then subsides. Our habits can be retrained. These mental formations are temporary, conditioned patterns, not a solid, abiding self. The fifth and final aggregate is consciousness. This refers to the basic faculty of awareness or knowing, the consciousness that is aware of seeing a sight, aware of hearing a sound, aware of thinking a thought. Surely, this must be the self, this unchanging witness behind it all. But the Buddha's analysis was even more subtle. He pointed out that consciousness does not exist independently. It is always dependent on an object. There is seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, thinking consciousness. It arises in relationship to something else. It is not a monolithic, independent entity that sits there like a king on a throne. It too is part of the flow, arising and passing away from moment to moment with its objects. So, after this thorough investigation, we are left with a startling conclusion. If the body is not me, my feelings are not me, my perceptions are not me, my mental habits are not me, and my consciousness is not a stable me, then where is this solid, permanent I that I have been clinging to my entire life? The insight of anatta is that this self cannot be found as a separate, solid entity. The self is not a noun, it is a verb. It is a process. It is a temporary coming together of these five changing aggregates. A process that creates the illusion of a solid self. Much like the rapid succession of still frames in a film creates the illusion of a moving, continuous character. To make this clearer, there is a famous and brilliant metaphor from an ancient Buddhist text, The Questions of King Milinda. A wise Buddhist sage named Nagasena meets with a Greek king, Milinda, who is a master of logic. The king asks the sage his name. Nagasena replies that his name is indeed Nagasena, but that this is just a convenient designation, a name for a collection of parts, and that no permanent person can be found. The king is skeptical and challenges him, pointing to Nagasena's chariot parked nearby. He asks, "Is the pole of the chariot no? Your Majesty," replies Nagasena. "Are the wheels the chariot? Is the axle the chariot? Are the ropes the chariot?" Each question. Nagasena answers no. Then the king asks, "Then are all these parts taken together the chariot?" and Nagasena again says no. Finally, Nagasena asks the king a question in return. Your Majesty, if you take all these parts, the wheels, the axle, the pole, the ropes, and you lay them out separately on the ground, where is the chariot then? The king has a flash of insight. He understands. The word chariot is simply a concept, a convenient label we apply when all the necessary parts are assembled and functioning together in a specific way. There is no independent, essential chariotness that exists apart from its constituent parts. Nagasena then explains that the word self, or Nagasena, is exactly the same. It is just a convenient label we apply to the temporary assembly of the 5 aggregates: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. When they are together and functioning, we call it a person. But if you look for a separate, unchanging soul or self in charge of it all, it simply cannot be found. This insight, far from being nihilistic or frightening, is the gateway to the most profound liberation. When the tight, clenched fist of the ego begins to relax, the psychological benefits are immense. If there is no solid self to defend, there is less need for pride, arrogance, and the constant, exhausting effort of managing our reputation. The painful game of comparing myself to yourself is revealed as a meaningless illusion. The envy we feel at another's success and the shame we feel at our own failure both begin to dissolve, because they are based on the false premise of separate, competing selves. Even the deep-seated fear of death loses much of its sting. Our primary fear is the annihilation of me. But if we see that this solid, separate me was a misconception all along, what is there to be annihilated? We see that we are not a static entity facing a future death, but a process that is already dying and being reborn in every single moment. This is not a denial of our existence. It is seeing our existence more accurately and more beautifully. We do not cease to exist. Rather, we cease to exist as a separate, isolated island. The illusion of the small, constricted, separate self is replaced by the reality of a vast, open, interconnected process. We are not a drop in the ocean. We are the entire ocean in a drop. When this profound shift in perspective begins to take root, our entire orientation to the world changes. The lifelong project of protecting, defending, and enhancing the little me starts to fall away. In its place, a natural, boundless sense of connection with all of life can finally emerge. When we see that other beings are not fundamentally separate from us, that their joys and their sorrows are intimately interconnected with our own, the heart naturally opens in a gesture of profound empathy. This leads us directly to the cultivation of the boundless states of the heart, beginning with the foundational practice of universal, unconditional love, or as it is known in the Pali language, metta. We have just walked through the profound and challenging teaching of anatta, or no self. We have taken apart the machine of our experience, our body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness, and have found that there is no solid, independent driver at the controls. This insight can be deeply liberating, as it frees us from the exhausting burden of defending and promoting a fragile ego. But for some, it can also feel abstract, even a little empty. If there is no me, then what is left? The answer, in the luminous wisdom of the Buddha's path, is that when the walls of the small self dissolve, What is revealed is a boundless heart, the deconstruction of the false. Separate self is what makes room for the construction of a true, universal connection. And the first and most fundamental tool for building this connection is the practice of metta, or loving kindness. Metta is a Pali word that is often translated as loving kindness, but it can also be understood as unconditional goodwill, gentle friendship, or boundless benevolence. It is crucial to understand what metta is not. It is not romantic love, which is often possessive and exclusive. It is not conditional affection, which we offer to people only when they please us. And it is not a sentimental, sappy emotion. Metta is a steady, sincere, and universal wish for the well-being of all beings, without exception and without demanding anything in return. It is the simple, powerful intention. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be at peace. The beautiful truth is that metta is not a quality that some people have and others don't. It is a skill. It is a muscle of the heart that can be intentionally cultivated, strengthened, and expanded through a systematic practice known as metta meditation. This practice traditionally begins in a place that, for many of us, is the most difficult with ourselves. There is a deep wisdom in this. We cannot genuinely offer water to others from a well that is dry. We cannot sincerely wish for others to be happy if our own heart is filled with self-criticism, shame, and judgment. We must learn to offer this kindness to ourselves first. Acknowledging that this can feel awkward or even undeserved is part of the practice. We meet that resistance with the same gentleness. To begin, you can find a comfortable posture and perhaps place a hand over your own heart, a gesture that brings a tangible sense of warmth and care to the body. Then, you silently and gently repeat a series of phrases directed at yourself. The traditional phrases are, may I be safe, may I be healthy, may I be happy, may I live with ease. As you repeat these phrases, the goal is not to force a particular feeling, but to connect with the sincere intention behind the words, even if you don't fully believe it at first. The gentle, patient repetition begins to water a seed of self-compassion that may have been dormant for a very long time. Once we have established this baseline of kindness for ourselves, we begin to expand the circle. The second stage is to bring to mind a benefactor or a dear friend. This should be someone for whom you feel easy, uncomplicated love and gratitude, a teacher, a mentor, a cherished friend, or a family member. Picture them clearly in your mind's eye. Feel the natural warmth and appreciation you have for them. Then, direct the phrases of metta towards them. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. Allow your heart to naturally extend this goodwill to them. This stage helps us connect with the feeling of metta in a way that is easy and joyful. The third stage is to bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see regularly but have no strong feelings about one way or the other. It could be the cashier at your local grocery store, the mail carrier, or someone you pass on your daily commute. We often walk through the world surrounded by such people, seeing them not as fully human, but as part of the scenery. This practice is a powerful antidote to that indifference. You bring this person to mind, and you reflect on a simple truth just like me. This person wants to be happy, just like me. This person wishes to avoid suffering. Recognizing this shared humanity, you then extend the same phrases to them. May you be safe. May you be happy. This stage begins to break down the artificial walls our minds create between me and stranger. Expanding our sense of connection, the fourth stage is the most challenging and, in many ways, the most transformative. We bring to mind a difficult person. It is wise to start with someone who is only mildly irritating, not the source of your deepest life trauma. The goal here is not to condone their harmful actions, nor is it to force yourself to like them in a conventional sense. The purpose of this stage is entirely for your own benefit. It is to free yourself from the corrosive poison of your own anger, resentment, and hatred. You bring this person to mind, and you try to see them not as a monster, but as a suffering human being whose unskillful actions are almost certainly born from their own pain, fear, and confusion. From this place of wisdom, you extend the phrases. Even if it feels purely mechanical at first, may you be safe. May you be happy. May you be free from the suffering that causes you to act in harmful ways. This is a profound act of healing for your own heart. It is you deciding that your inner peace is more important than holding on to your grievance. Finally, in the fifth stage, we let the circle become boundless. Having generated this feeling of metta, we now radiate it outwards in all directions. You can visualize it as a warm, golden light emanating from your heart. First, include yourself, the benefactor, the neutral person, and the difficult person all together in this light. Then, expand it to all beings in your building, in your city, in your country. Then, expand it further to all beings on this continent, on this planet. Let it extend to all animals, all creatures seen and unseen, great and small. Let it extend to all beings in all realms of existence, without any exception. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be healthy. May all beings everywhere be happy. May all beings everywhere live with ease. This is the practice of dissolving all boundaries and resting in a state of universal, loving kindness. This practice is the direct antidote to the states of mind that cause us the most pain. Anger and hatred cannot coexist in a mind that is actively cultivating metta. It is like pouring cool water onto a burning fire. Fear and anxiety, which are rooted in a sense of threat and separation, are soothed by the feeling of safety and connection that metta brings. And as we have seen, metta is not a weak or sentimental feeling. It is a deep and resilient inner strength. This is powerfully illustrated in a story from the Buddha's life. The Buddha's jealous cousin, Devadatta, attempted multiple times to kill him. In one attempt, he arranged for the king's fiercest elephant, Nalagiri, to be intoxicated with alcohol, turning the massive beast into a raging engine of destruction. The elephant was then released onto the narrow street where the Buddha and his monks were calmly walking for alms. The townspeople screamed and fled in terror as the elephant charged, trumpeting with rage, its eyes red with fury, destroying everything in its path. The Buddha's loyal attendant, Ananda, bravely stepped in front of the Buddha to shield him with his own body, but the Buddha gently told him to step aside. He did not run. He did not prepare to fight. He simply stood still, looked directly at the charging, enraged animal, and radiated an immense, powerful, and unwavering field of pure metta. As the elephant thundered closer, this powerful energy of unconditional love reached it. Its charge began to slow, The fury in its eyes began to soften into confusion, and then into calmness. The great beast came to a stop just before the Buddha lowered its massive head and knelt before him, completely and utterly tamed. This story demonstrates that metta is not a passive wish. It is a tangible force, a profound strength capable of disarming the most intense anger and hatred, both in the world around us and, most importantly, within our own hearts. The practice of metta systematically trains the heart to open up, moving from the often difficult love for oneself outwards to embrace all of life. It fills the space that was once occupied by the small, separate self with a feeling of warm, boundless connection. This wish for all beings to be happy is the first of the four great boundless states of the heart. But what happens when we open our heart and encounter beings who are not happy, who are, in fact, actively suffering? Our sincere wish for their happiness then naturally transforms into a different, though deeply related, quality: the heartfelt wish for them to be free from their pain. This active empathy, this trembling of the heart in the face of the suffering of others, is the boundless state of compassion, or karuna, and that is the next step on our journey. With the practice of metta, we have opened the gates of our heart, cultivating a boundless, unconditional goodwill for all living beings. We have learned to sincerely wish, "May you be happy." This is a profound and transformative practice. But as we open our hearts to the world, we inevitably encounter a stark reality. Many beings are not happy. Many are experiencing deep and profound suffering in countless forms. The heart that has been softened and opened by metta cannot help but be touched by this, and the heart's natural response to witnessing suffering is the boundless state of karuna, or compassion. If metta is the gentle wish for all to find joy, karuna is the gentle wish for all to be free from pain. The word itself can be translated from Pali as a trembling or a quivering of the heart. It is that visceral, gut-level response we feel when we witness another's pain. It is the empathetic sorrow that arises when we see a friend in tears, an animal in distress, or news reports of a tragedy across the world. It is the force that moves us to want to help, to reach out, to soothe, to alleviate the suffering we are witnessing. It is absolutely essential, however, to distinguish true compassion from its near enemies, states that look similar but are fundamentally different. The first is pity. Pity establishes a hierarchy. It creates distance. When we feel pity for someone, we are looking down on them from a position of imagined superiority. The inner monologue of pity is as, "Oh, you poor, unfortunate thing. I am so glad I am not in your position." Pity reinforces the sense of separation between me and you. True compassion, karuna, does the exact opposite. It is based on a profound sense of equality and shared humanity. The inner voice of compassion says, "I see your suffering, and I recognize that same vulnerability, that same capacity for pain within myself. Your suffering is not foreign to me." Compassion closes the distance and is born from a feeling of witness. The second state to distinguish compassion from is what is sometimes called empathic distress or idiot compassion. This is the experience of being so completely overwhelmed by another's suffering that we drown in it ourselves. We see a friend in despair, and we become so consumed by their despair that we are paralyzed, unable to offer any real help. This is not karuna. True compassion is not just a feeling. It is a skill that requires both an open heart and a stable mind. To be truly compassionate, we must be able to be with suffering without being destroyed by it. This points to the two essential components of genuine compassion, which can be thought of as the two wings of a great bird. For the bird of compassion to fly, it needs both wings to be strong. The first wing is empathy, the soft, tender quality of the heart that allows us to feel with another. It is the trembling, the resonance, the ability to be touched by another's plight. Without this wing, our response to suffering would be cold, clinical, and disconnected. The second, equally important wing is wisdom, or prajna. This is the strength and clarity of the mind that understands the nature of reality. It is the wisdom that sees the universal nature of suffering. Dukkha. It is the wisdom of impermanence, knowing that this suffering will change. And it is the wisdom of no self, understanding that this suffering is an impersonal process, not a solid, permanent stain on a person's identity. It is this wing of wisdom that provides the stability, the resilience, and the clarity to keep our heart open in the face of pain without becoming overwhelmed. It allows us to offer help effectively from a place of balance and strength, rather than from a place of panic distress. Like metta, karuna is a quality that can be intentionally cultivated. The practice is similar. We begin by bringing to mind a person or being whom we know is currently suffering. It could be a friend going through an illness, a family member experiencing emotional hardship, or even an animal we know is in pain. We allow ourselves to connect with the reality of their struggle, to let our heart be touched by their difficulty. Then, we formulate a sincere and heartfelt wish for them. We silently repeat phrases such as, "May you be free from your suffering. May you be free from the causes of your suffering. May you find healing. May you find peace." We allow this compassionate wish to fill our heart and mind, directing it towards this person. Then, just as with metta, we gradually expand the circle. We bring to mind others who are suffering in our community, in our country, and across the world. We think of those suffering from war, from famine, from injustice, from natural disasters. We hold all of them in our heart and extend the compassionate wish, may all who are suffering be free from their pain. May they be free from the causes of their pain. And crucially, we must learn to turn this compassionate gaze inward, upon ourselves. We all suffer. We all have our own pains, our own sorrows, our own struggles. We must learn to include ourselves in the circle of our own compassion, offering ourselves the same wish. May I be free from my suffering. May I be free from the causes of my suffering. May I be kind to myself in my pain. It is a mistake to think of compassion as a passive state of simply feeling sad for others. True karuna is one of the most powerful motivators for selfless, courageous action. When we truly feel another's suffering as our own, the desire to help, to do something to alleviate that pain, arises naturally and spontaneously. It is not born from a sense of duty, guilt, or the need to be seen as a good person. It is born from the undeniable recognition of our interconnection. This is the energy that fuels the doctor working late hours in an emergency room, the firefighter rushing into a burning building, the activist fighting for justice for the oppressed, and the friend who simply sits in silence and holds the hand of someone who is grieving. Compassion is the heart's response to seeing a need and feeling the irresistible urge to meet it. In the rich iconography of Mahayana Buddhism, there is a powerful and beautiful figure who perfectly embodies this active, wise compassion. This is the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, known in Vietnam as Quan Thiam. This being, who represents the awakened compassion of all Buddhas, is often depicted with 1,000 hands and, in the palm of each hand, an open eye. This imagery is a profound teaching. The 1,000 eyes symbolize the wisdom wing of compassion, the ability to see and perceive the countless, varied forms of suffering throughout the universe, to hear the cries of the world with perfect clarity. The 1,000 hands symbolize the action wing of compassion, the boundless capacity and skillful means to reach out and offer help in 1,000 different ways, to soothe, to protect, to heal, and to liberate. Quan Thiam is the perfect metaphor for what we are cultivating, a compassion that is not blind, but sees clearly, and that is not passive, but responds skillfully. It is the complete union of a tender heart and a wise mind. Karuna, then, is the natural evolution of metta. When our wish for all beings to be happy encounters the reality of their pain, it transforms into the profound wish for them to be free from that pain. It is the heart's tremble in the face of suffering, a tremble that is held and supported by the unshakable stability of wisdom. It is the force that dissolves the illusion of a separate self and fuels our most noble and selfless actions. Having cultivated a heart that wishes for the happiness of all beings, and that feels compassion for their suffering, we are now faced with the full, complex spectrum of life. What happens when we witness not suffering, but great joy and success in others? And how do we maintain our own inner balance when faced with life's inevitable ups and downs, especially those situations we cannot change? Our journey now leads us to explore the next two boundless qualities of the heart: sympathetic joy and equanimity. We have journeyed with an open heart through the landscape of human experience. With metta, or loving kindness, we have cultivated the sincere wish for all beings to be happy. With karuna, or compassion, we have learned to meet the reality of suffering in others and in ourselves with a tender heart and a wise mind, wishing for all pain to cease. This opens us up to a deep and empathetic connection with the world, but this connection must encompass the full spectrum of life, not just its difficulties. What is our heart's response when we witness not suffering, but its opposite when we see others experiencing great joy, success, and good fortune? This brings us to the third of the four boundless states of the heart, a quality known as mudita, which can be translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy. Mudita is the capacity to feel genuine, selfless happiness for the happiness of others. It is the ability to celebrate their successes as if they were our own, without any trace of resentment or comparison. And we must be honest with ourselves. For many of us, this can be the most difficult of the heart practices. It can often feel easier to summon compassion for someone who is struggling than it is to feel pure, unadulterated joy for someone who is soaring. The moment we hear of another's good fortune, a friend's promotion, a sibling's happy relationship, a colleague's successful project, another voice often whispers in our ear. It is the cold, sharp, and painful voice of envy. It is the voice of jealousy. It is the thought that contracts the heart and asks, "Why them, and not me?" To cultivate mudita, we must first diagnose the sickness that it is meant to cure, the sickness of envy. Envy is one of the most painful and isolating of all mental states. It is born from a deep-seated and fundamentally mistaken belief in scarcity. The envious mind operates from a scarcity mindset, a core assumption that happiness, success, recognition, and love are all limited resources. It views life as a zero-sum game. It believes there is only one pie, and if someone else gets a large slice, that means there is inevitably less left for me. This painful belief is fueled directly by the illusion of the separate self that we have already explored. The ego, feeling itself to be a small, isolated, and competing entity, feels diminished and threatened by the success of others. Another's light seems to cast a shadow on our own perceived lack. Envy is the cry of a contracted and insecure sense of self, a self that feels impoverished and left behind. Mudita is the radical and liberating antidote to this poison. It is the practice of shifting from a scarcity mindset to one of boundless abundance. Mudita understands the profound truth that happiness is not a limited commodity. It is not a pie to be divided. It is generative and expansive. The happiness of another person does not subtract from the world's total supply of joy. It adds to it. And when we learn to connect with that joy, we can share in it. The practice of mudita is revolutionary because it fundamentally changes the arithmetic of our own happiness. When we are trapped in envy, our opportunities for joy are restricted to our own personal and often infrequent moments of success. Our world of joy is very small. But when we cultivate mudita, our opportunities for joy become infinite. We can derive genuine happiness from the success of our friends, the laughter of children on a playground, the achievements of athletes we admire, the beautiful art created by strangers. The entire world becomes a potential source of joy for us. It is a profound shift from living in a small, guarded fortress to living in an open, sunlit field. Like the other heart practices, mudita can be cultivated through a systematic meditation. You begin by bringing to mind a person for whom you feel great affection and respect, someone whose happiness is easy for you to celebrate. Perhaps a dear friend or a beloved family member who has recently experienced some good fortune. Bring their image clearly into your mind. Visualize them in their moment of joy. Picture their smile. Hear their laughter. Feel the vibrant energy of their success. Allow yourself to connect with that feeling. Then, begin to repeat the phrases of appreciative joy. I am so happy for you. I rejoice in your good fortune. May your happiness and your joy continue and increase. Feel the sincerity of this wish in your own heart. Feel the warmth and expansiveness that comes from genuinely celebrating another. Once you have established this feeling, you can begin to expand the circle. Bring to mind a neutral person, en acquaintance, and think of some good fortune they might be experiencing. Perhaps they are simply enjoying a sunny day or a good meal. Recognize their right to happiness and offer them the same wish. I rejoice in your joy. The most advanced stage of the practice is to then bring to mind someone for whom you feel envy or competitiveness. This must be done with great care. Acknowledge the feeling of envy that arises, without judging yourself for it. See it for what it is, a painful contraction based on a false belief. Then, see if it is possible, even for a moment, to find a tiny seed of mudita. Can you appreciate the effort they put into their success? Can you recognize that their happiness does not, in reality, harm you in any way? can you offer a tentative wish? May you enjoy your success. May your happiness continue. This practice is a direct and powerful way to dismantle the painful structure of envy at its very root. Finally, you can generalize the wish to all beings everywhere who are experiencing joy right now, rejoicing with them and wishing for their happiness to continue. There is a simple and beautiful metaphor that captures the essence of mudita perfectly. Imagine a single candle burning brightly in a large, dark room. Its light is clear and beautiful. Now, imagine thousands of unlit candles being brought into that room. The first candle begins to share its flame. It touches its flame to the wick of a second candle, which immediately bursts into light. Then it lights a third, and a fourth, and so on, until the entire room is filled with a brilliant, warm, and dazzling radiance. Now, ask yourself this question. By lighting all those other thousands of candles, did the first candle lose any of its own light? Was its own flame diminished in any way? The answer is obvious. No. In fact, by giving its light away so freely, it helped to create a much brighter, warmer, and more beautiful space for everyone. Happiness is exactly like that flame. Sharing in the joy of another does not diminish your own. It multiplies the total light in the world. Envy is the cold, dark belief that light is finite and must be hoarded. Mudita is the warm, wise understanding that light is infinitely shareable. We can take this practice off the meditation cushion and into our daily lives. When a friend calls with good news, make a conscious effort to pause and feel genuine joy for them before any thoughts of comparison can creep in. When you see strangers laughing together on the street, allow yourself to feel a quiet, internal smile in response. When you scroll through social media, which can often be a powerful trigger for envy, see if you can reframe it as an opportunity to practice mudita for the happy moments, both big and small, that people are sharing. This can transform a source of great suffering into a powerful practice of joy. Mudita is the courageous practice of choosing celebration over comparison, abundance over scarcity. It is the third great jewel of the boundless heart. We have now cultivated metta, the wish for all beings to be happy. We have cultivated karuna, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering. And we have cultivated mudita, the ability to rejoice in their happiness. Our hearts are now deeply and intimately engaged with the full, vibrant, and complex tapestry of life. But what quality allows us to maintain our own center, our own profound and unshakable peace? Amidst all of these highs and lows, what keeps us from being carried away by elation when things go our way, and by despair when they don't? Especially when we are faced with life's great tragedies and injustices that we cannot change. This grounding, stabilizing, and ultimate quality of the heart is the fourth and culminating boundless state, equanimity, or upekkha. We have now explored 3 of the 4 great boundless states of the heart. We have watered the seeds of metta, the universal wish for all beings to be happy. We have opened ourselves to karuna, the compassionate trembling of the heart that wishes for all suffering to cease. And we have practiced mudita, the selfless, appreciative joy that celebrates the happiness and success of others. With these 3 qualities, our hearts become deeply and actively engaged with the world, feeling its joys and sorrows with immense sensitivity. But this very sensitivity requires a 4th and culminating quality, a quality that serves as the foundation and balance for all the others. This is the profound and unshakable state of upekkha, or equanimity. Upekkha is perhaps the most misunderstood of all these heart practices. The word itself means to look over, implying the ability to see a situation from a high vantage point, with a broad, all-encompassing perspective. It is often mistaken for indifference, detachment, coldness, or a stoic suppression of feeling. This could not be further from the truth. Indifference is a state of shutting down, of closing the heart to avoid being hurt. Its inner voice is, "I don't care." It is a contraction based on fear. Equanimity is the exact opposite. It is a state of radical openness, of courageously opening the heart so wide that it can hold everything, the entire spectrum of human experience, without being thrown off its center. It can hold pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, success and failure, all with the same vast, accepting and peaceful embrace. Its inner voice is, "I care so deeply that I can hold this with peace." Equanimity is not a state you can force through sheer willpower. It arises naturally from the soil of deep wisdom. Specifically, it is born from the clear seeing of two fundamental laws we have already explored: impermanence and karma. When we truly, deeply understand anicca, that all things are in a state of constant flux, we naturally stop clinging so tightly to the pleasant and resisting the unpleasant. When we receive praise, we can enjoy it, but we don't become attached to it, because we know it is a fleeting sound. When we are criticized, it stings, but we don't fall into despair, because we know this feeling too shall pass. We are less likely to be swept away by the ever-changing winds of circumstance. Furthermore, equanimity is born from a wise understanding of karma, the law of cause and effect. We recognize that every being is the heir of their own actions, words, and thoughts. Their happiness and suffering arise from a vast and complex web of causes and conditions, stretching far beyond our limited influence. This understanding allows us to love deeply and act compassionately, while freeing us from the arrogant and exhausting burden of trying to control the outcomes of everyone's lives. A parent with equanimity loves their child with all their heart. They offer guidance, support, and protection, but they have the wisdom to know that they cannot make every decision for their child or shield them from all of life's pain. They do their best with immense love, and then they let go of the outcome. A doctor with equanimity works with skill and profound compassion to heal their patients, but they have the wisdom to accept that death is a part of life and that they cannot save everyone. This allows them to continue their vital work without being crushed by burnout and despair. This is the essence of upekkha: to carefully, to act skillfully, and to release our attachment to the results. There is a classic Taoist story that perfectly illustrates the peaceful wisdom of equanimity. There was an old farmer in a small village who had a beautiful horse. One day, the horse escaped from the corral and ran off into the mountains. The farmer's neighbors all came to console him. "This is such terrible luck," they said. The farmer simply looked at them and replied, "Maybe a week later." The horse returned, and it was not alone. It had led a herd of a dozen magnificent wild horses back to the farm. The neighbors were overjoyed for the farmer. "This is incredible, what wonderful luck," they exclaimed. The farmer calmly replied, "Maybe." The next day, the farmer's only son was trying to tame one of the wild horses. He was thrown from the horse, and his leg was badly broken. The neighbors again gathered, shaking their heads. Your only son, injured so badly, this is truly awful luck. The farmer, looking at his son's bandaged leg, replied softly, maybe. A few weeks later, the emperor's army marched into the village, forcibly conscripting every able-bodied young man for a dangerous war from which few were expected to return. When they saw the farmer's son with his broken leg, they passed him by. The farmer in this story is a master of upekkha. He does not ride the emotional roller coaster of apparent good fortune and bad fortune. He withholds judgment, knowing that he cannot possibly see the full picture of causes and consequences. He maintains his inner peace by accepting the unfolding of life with a spacious, non-reactive maybe. He lives in the calm center of the wheel, watching it turn without being spun around by it. In our practice, upekkha acts as the great guardian and harmonizer of the other three boundless states. It is the quality that protects them from becoming distorted by our own self-interest. It prevents our metta, or loving kindness, from turning into selfish clinging, possessiveness, or grief when the person we love inevitably changes or is lost to us. It prevents our karuna, our compassion, from degenerating into overwhelming despair or burnout when we are faced with immense suffering that we cannot fix. And it prevents our mudita, our sympathetic joy, from becoming a form of vicarious attachment or giddy excitement that depends on the success of others for our own happiness. Equanimity is the wide, stable, and loving container that allows metta, karuna, and mudita to be expressed with purity, wisdom, and boundless reach. It is the deep, silent earth from which the other three can grow, blossom, and flourish without toppling over. Therefore, upekkha is seen as the culmination of the four boundless states, the perfection of the heart's training. It is the profound and peaceful balance born of a heart that loves without needing to possess, a heart that cares without needing to control, and a heart that can embrace the totality of life, its beauty and its pain, its joys and its sorrows with an unshakable and loving calm. We have now journeyed through the core insights of Buddhist psychology and have cultivated the four great qualities of the awakened heart. We have gathered the tools of mindfulness and the wisdom of impermanence, no self, and compassion. We have, in essence, equipped our inner world. The journey now turns from cultivating these states in meditation to applying them skillfully in the messy, beautiful, and often unpredictable laboratory of our daily lives. And there is no arena more challenging and more rewarding for this practice than that of our relationships with other people. How do we bring this mindful presence, this loving kindness, this boundless compassion and equanimity into our interactions with our partners, our families, our friends, and our colleagues? This is our next vital exploration. We have journeyed deep into the inner world, cultivating the fertile ground of our own heart and mind. We have sharpened the tools of mindfulness, and we have gathered the profound insights of impermanence, no self, and the four boundless states of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Now, we must bring these treasures out from the quiet of our meditation and into the dynamic, complex, and often challenging arena of our daily lives. And there is no greater testing ground for our practice, no more fertile field for our growth, than in our relationships with other people. It is easy to feel peaceful and compassionate when we are alone. It is another thing entirely to maintain that peace when dealing with a difficult colleague, a frustrated partner, or a demanding family member. But our relationships are not obstacles to our practice. They are the very heart of it. They are our greatest opportunity to see where we are still hooked, where we still cling, and where we have the chance to grow in wisdom and love. The secret to transforming our relationships lies in a simple but radical shift. We stop trying to control or change the other person, and instead, we take full responsibility for how we show up in the interaction. The first and perhaps most powerful skill we can bring to any relationship is the practice of deep listening. Most of the time, when we think we are listening, we are actually just waiting for our turn to speak. Our mind is busy formulating a rebuttal, preparing a piece of advice, or searching for a similar story from our own life to share. We listen through a thick filter of our own ego, our own agenda. This is not true listening. Deep listening, as taught by masters like Thich Nhat Hanh, is the practice of offering another person the rare and precious gift of our full, undivided, and compassionate attention. It means putting down your phone, turning away from your computer, and being fully present. You listen not just to their words, but to the feelings underneath the words. You listen with the single intention of understanding their experience, their suffering, and their joy, without needing to fix it, judge it, or redirect it back to yourself. When someone feels truly and deeply heard, without interruption or judgment, it is a profound act of healing. It creates a space of safety and trust where genuine connection can finally blossom. Flowing naturally from deep listening is the second skill, loving speech, or aingu. Our words possess an immense power. They can be weapons that create wounds that last for years, or they can be medicine that soothes, heals, and inspires. The practice of loving speech is the practice of using our words with conscious, compassionate intention. This practice asks us to consider a few things before we speak. First, are my words true? We commit to speaking honestly and avoiding exaggeration. Second, are my words kind? We refrain from language that is harsh, abusive, sarcastic, or intended to wound, even if the content is true. Third, are my words beneficial? We learn to avoid engaging in useless gossip or speech that is designed to create division and discord. This does not mean we avoid difficult conversations. It means we learn to speak our truth with care, motivated by a desire for understanding and connection, rather than a desire to win an argument or to prove that we are right. The third, and perhaps most liberating skill, is the practice of letting go of expectations and projections. So often in our relationships, we are not actually relating to the real person in front of us. We are relating to a mental image, a projection that we have created of who we think they are, or who we want them to be. We fall in love with our idea of a perfect partner. We hold on to an image of our child as they were years ago, or we demand that our friends fit into a neat box of our own making. Suffering inevitably arises when the living, breathing, constantly changing human being in front of us fails to conform to our static, idealized image. Our first reaction is often to try and fix them, to pressure them to change back into the person we thought they were. This is a subtle form of violence. The practice of letting go in relationships is the brave act of dissolving these mental images and allowing the people we love the space to be who they truly are. in all their messy, imperfect, and glorious humanity. It means accepting their flaws, just as we must learn to accept our own. This creates a space of authenticity, where real intimacy, based on truth rather than fantasy, can flourish. Finally, we must bring the wisdom of impermanence into the heart of our relationships. Everything changes. Our connections with others are not static monuments. They are living, flowing rivers. Children grow up and form their own lives. Friendships evolve, and sometimes they drift apart. The passionate romance of a new relationship naturally matures into a different, deeper form of love over the years. Resisting this natural flow is a primary source of relational suffering. By embracing the truth of anicca, we can learn to cherish the moments we have with our loved ones more deeply, knowing that this present moment is precious and will not last forever. We are less likely to get caught up in petty arguments and more likely to focus on the love and connection that is available to us right now. This understanding also prepares us to navigate the inevitable endings and separations of life, whether through circumstance or death, with more grace, wisdom, and gratitude for the time we had. There is a classic Zen story that beautifully illustrates the importance of letting go of our baggage in relationships. Two monks, an older one and a younger one, were traveling together. They came to a wide, muddy river. A beautiful young woman dressed in fine silks was standing on the bank, hesitant to cross for fear of ruining her clothes. Without saying a word, the older monk walked over, lifted the woman into his arms, carried her across the turbulent river, and gently set her down on the other side. He then bowed and continued on his journey. The younger monk was utterly scandalized. The monastic vows he had taken strictly forbade him from even touching a woman. For the next several hours, he walked behind his older companion, fuming in silence. He replayed the scene over and over in his mind, building a powerful case of judgment and indignation. He could think of nothing else. Finally, he could bear it no longer and burst out, "Brother, how could you do that? You are a monk. You know we are forbidden to touch women. You have broken our most sacred vows." The older monk looked at him with a calm, gentle expression and replied, "Brother, I left that woman back on the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story is a powerful mirror for our own lives. How many times a day do we carry the woman from the river? We carry the sting of a critical comment. We nurse a grudge from a past argument. We endlessly replay a conversation in our minds. We burden our present relationships with the heavy baggage of the past. The practice of mindfulness in relationships is the practice of learning to leave the past at the riverbank. It is the practice of deep listening, loving speech, letting go of our projections, and embracing impermanence. It is the conscious choice to meet each person and each moment with a fresh, open, and compassionate heart. By bringing these skills into our connections, we transform them from sources of stress and conflict into our most valuable practice ground. Our relationships become the living expression of our journey towards wisdom and love. Now, having explored this intimate sphere of our lives, let us turn our attention to another domain that consumes so much of our time and energy, and is so often a source of immense pressure: our work. How can we bring this same peace, clarity, and compassionate action into the demanding environment of our professional lives? Having explored how to bring our practice into the intimate sphere of our relationships, we now turn to another domain that occupies a vast portion of our lives: and is often a primary source of stress, our work. For many, the modern workplace can feel like a factory designed to produce anxiety. We are faced with a relentless barrage of emails, notifications, and messages. We are crushed under the weight of constant deadlines and the pressure to be productive every single minute. It is an environment where the monkey mind, fueled by caffeine and cortisol, is often at its most hyperactive, swinging frantically from task to task. From worry to worry, this can lead to a pervasive sense of burnout, dissatisfaction, and a feeling that we are merely surviving our days rather than living them. The common belief is that to find peace, we must escape this environment. But the wisdom of mindfulness offers a different path. It suggests that we don't necessarily need to change our job. We need to change our relationship to our job. We can learn to bring moments of peace, clarity, and sanity right into the heart of a busy workday. One of the most pervasive myths of modern work culture is that multitasking is the key to efficiency. We take pride in our ability to answer an email while on a conference call, while simultaneously planning our next project. But neuroscientific research tells us a starkly different story. The human brain cannot actually focus on two cognitively demanding tasks at the same time. What we call multitasking is, in reality, rapid and continuous task switching. Every time we switch from one task to another, our brain pays a tax. It takes mental energy to disengage from the first task and re-engage with the second. This constant switching depletes our focus, dramatically increases the likelihood of making errors, and floods our system with stress hormones. It is a recipe for exhaustion and mediocre work. The mindful alternative is the powerful practice of single tasking. It is the simple, radical act of doing one thing at a time. When you are writing a report, just write the report. Close your other tabs, silence your notifications, and give that single task the gift of your full attention. When you are in a meeting, just be in the meeting. Listen deeply, engage fully, and resist the urge to check your phone under the table. When you bring the full force of your concentrated awareness to a single task, you enter a state of flow. Your work becomes more effective, more creative, and significantly less stressful. You will find that you not only produce higher quality work, but you also end the day feeling less drained and more satisfied, with a sense of accomplishment rather than a feeling of being scattered and fragmented. Of course, it is unrealistic to expect that you can set aside an hour for meditation in the middle of a hectic workday, but you can integrate the profound benefits of meditation through the practice of micro-meditations or mindful pauses. These are intentional breaks of just 1 to 3 minutes that can fundamentally reset your nervous system. You can sprinkle them throughout your day. Before you even open your first email in the morning, take 1 full minute to simply sit at your desk. Close your eyes and take 3 conscious breaths. Set a simple intention for the day, such as, "Today, I will meet my challenges with patience." When you finish a stressful meeting or a difficult phone call, instead of immediately diving into the next task, take a moment, stand up, stretch, look out a window, and consciously follow the feeling of 3 full breaths. This acts as a mental palate cleanser, preventing the residue of stress from one event from contaminating the next. A simple and powerful technique to remember is the acronym STOP. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, You can stop, take a conscious breath, observe what is happening in your body and mind without judgment, and then proceed with greater awareness and intention. These tiny islands of peace can transform the entire landscape of your day. Another powerful opportunity for practice is the one we often rush through the most, our lunch break. For many, this involves eating a sandwich as quickly as possible while hunched over a keyboard, scrolling through news feeds, or answering more emails. We barely register the taste of our food, and we return to our work feeling just as mentally taxed as before. A mindful lunch is a radical act of self-care. It means stepping away from your desk. It means putting your phone away. Before you take the first bite, take a moment to look at your food. Notice the colors, the textures, the aroma. As you eat, do so slowly. Chew thoroughly. Try to identify the individual flavors. Feel the texture of the food in your mouth. In the middle of your meal, consciously place your fork down for a minute and just breathe. And you can practice gratitude, reflecting on the vast web of causes and conditions that brought this meal to you: the sun, the rain, the earth, the farmer who grew the food, the driver who transported it, the person who prepared it. A mindful meal not only nourishes your body more effectively, but it gives your mind a genuine rest, allowing you to return to your afternoon work feeling truly recharged and centered. Finally, we bring our practice to our interactions with our colleagues. We can apply the skills of deep listening and loving speech. When a coworker is speaking to you, give them your full attention. Resist the urge to interrupt or formulate your reply. Just listen to understand. This alone can prevent countless misunderstandings and build a powerful sense of trust and respect. In your own communication, both in person and in emails, practice speaking and writing in a way that is truthful, kind, and constructive. Before sending that reactive email, pause, read it over. Is it helpful? Is it necessary? Is it kind? A moment of mindful restraint can prevent hours of workplace conflict and drama. There is a wonderful story about a master sculptor who was carving a magnificent statue of a Buddha from a giant block of marble. A visitor watched, mesmerized, as the sculptor worked with incredible focus and precision, chipping away at the stone. Gradually, the serene and perfect form of the Buddha began to emerge from the rough block. The visitor, completely awestruck, approached the sculptor and asked, "Sir, how do you do it? How do you create such a perfect and beautiful form from a shapeless piece of stone?" The sculptor paused his work, looked at the visitor, and smiled. "Oh, it is very simple," he said. "The statue of the Buddha was already in the stone. My job is simply to chip away all the parts that are not the Buddha." This is a perfect metaphor for our work. Our meaningful, effective, and peaceful work is the Buddha that is already present in our tasks. The parts that are not the Buddha are all the unnecessary layers of stress and distraction that we add on top. It is the anxiety about the deadline, the distraction of multitasking, the frustration with a difficult colleague, the mental chatter of our own self-doubt. The practice of mindfulness at work is not about adding yet another stressful task to our to-do list. It is the art of chipping away. It is the process of mindfully removing the layers of mental clutter, reactivity, and resistance, so that we can engage with the essential work that is right in front of us, with clarity, focus, and a quiet mind. We learn to work not harder, but with more wisdom and less friction. Having brought our practice to our relationships and our work, let us now turn to one of the most fundamental and repeated activities of our day, an act that offers a perfect, recurring opportunity to nourish both body and mind, the simple act of eating. We have explored how to bring mindfulness into our complex inner worlds, our relationships, and our professional lives. Now, we turn our attention to one of the most fundamental, necessary, and often unconscious acts we perform every day: the act of eating. For many of us in the modern world, eating has become a mindless chore. We eat while driving, while standing at the kitchen counter, while scrolling through our phones, or while watching television. Our minds are a million miles away from our mouths. We shovel food in, barely tasting it, treating the act of nourishment as just another task to be completed as quickly as possible. In doing so, we have severed one of our most intimate and essential connections to the earth and to the web of life that sustains us. Mindful eating is the practice of reforging that sacred connection. It is not a diet. It is not a restrictive set of rules. It is a joyful, sensory, and deeply spiritual practice of bringing our full, kind, and grateful attention to the miracle of our food. Let us contrast our normal way of eating with the mindful way. Mindless eating is an act of distraction. The body is taking in food, but the mind is elsewhere, lost in thought, consumed by a screen, or planning the future. Because we are not present, we don't truly taste the flavors or appreciate the textures. We often eat far beyond the point of fullness because we are not listening to the subtle signals our body is sending us. We eat out of boredom, stress, loneliness, or sadness, using food as a way to numb our feelings rather than nourish our bodies. This often leads to feelings of guilt, dissatisfaction, and physical discomfort. It is a disconnected and often painful relationship with food. Mindful eating is the exact opposite. It is an act of pure presence. It is a meditation that engages all of our senses. It begins before we even take the first bite. By taking a moment to simply look at the food on our plate, we notice the vibrant colors, the different shapes, the arrangement. We take a moment to smell the aromas, allowing them to awaken our senses. When we take the first bite, we do so consciously. We chew slowly, putting our fork down between bites. This simple act creates a pause, allowing us to fully experience the explosion of taste and texture in our mouths. Is it sweet, salty, sour, bitter? Is it crunchy, soft, creamy, chewy? By slowing down and paying attention, we become connoisseurs of our own meal, deriving immense pleasure and satisfaction from simple food. To truly understand this, you can try a simple meditation with the first bite of your next meal, or even with a single piece of fruit, like a raisin. First, simply look at the raisin in your palm. See it as if you have never seen one before. Notice its unique, intricate wrinkles, a deep color, the way the light reflects off its skin. Next, bring it to your nose and inhale its fragrance. What do you smell? A hint of sun, a touch of earthiness. Then, slowly bring the raisin to your lips and place it in your mouth. But don't chew just yet. Simply let it rest on your tongue, noticing the sensations. Finally, begin to chew, very, very slowly, perhaps 2 or 3 times slower than you normally would. Notice the burst of sweetness, the changing texture. Consciously swallow and follow the sensation as it travels down your throat. Take a moment to just sit with the aftertaste and the feeling in your body. All of this profound sensory experience from one single humble raisin. Imagine bringing this level of attention to your entire meal. This practice of sensory awareness naturally blossoms into a deeper insight, the insight of our profound interconnectedness with all of life. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught that if we look deeply into our bowl, we can see the entire universe. Look at a simple bowl of rice. What is in it? The sun is in it. Without the immense heat and light of the sun, the rice plants could never have grown. The clouds are in it. Without the clouds to gather moisture, there would be no rain to water the fields. The earth is in it. Its rich soil and minerals providing the essential nutrients for the plant's life, and the labor of countless beings is in it. The farmer who toiled under the hot sun to plant, tend, and harvest the rice. The people who transported the rice, perhaps across great distances. The people who packaged it, sold it, and finally, the person who cooked it and brought it to your table. When we see this vast, intricate web of interbeing, we realize that this simple bowl of food is not just a thing, it is a miracle. It is the culmination of the entire cosmos offering itself to us for our survival and our nourishment. Seeing this, a feeling of deep, genuine gratitude arises naturally in the heart. Eating becomes an act of communion, a way of honoring the immense gift of life. This mindful approach also puts us back in touch with the innate wisdom of our own bodies. So much of our unhealthy eating stems from the fact that we have forgotten how to listen to ourselves. Before you eat, the practice of mindfulness invites you to pause and ask a simple question. Am I truly physically hungry right now? Or is this craving coming from a different place? Am I feeling stressed, lonely, bored, or sad? Learning to distinguish true physical hunger from emotional cravings is a revolutionary step toward healing our relationship with food. Furthermore, as we eat slowly and without distraction, we become much more sensitive to our body's signals of satiety. We begin to notice the subtle feeling that says, "I am pleasantly full. I have had enough." Mindless eating causes us to speed right past this signal, often eating until we are uncomfortably stuffed. Mindful eating respects our body's wisdom, helping us to eat the right amount to feel energized and well, rather than lethargic and heavy. Thich Nhat Hanh often used the example of eating a tangerine to teach this practice. He would hold the small orange fruit in the palm of his hand as if it were a jewel. He would look at it, and he would see in it the tangerine tree, the flower blossoms of the spring, the sunshine and the rain that helped it grow. He would peel it slowly and deliberately, inhaling the fragrant mist from the peel. He would separate each segment with care, and when he finally put a piece in his mouth, it was with the full awareness that he was receiving a precious gift from the earth. To eat a tangerine in this way is to transform a mundane act into a moment of deep wonder and peace. Mindful eating is a joyful and profound practice that is available to us several times a day. It heals our relationship with our bodies and our food. It cultivates a heart of gratitude, and it reminds us that mindfulness is not something reserved for a special time or place. It is a way of bringing a sacred quality of attention to the most ordinary and essential activities of our lives. Just as we eat every day, we also walk every day. And just as the act of eating can be transformed into a deep meditation, so too breath and the simple act of putting one foot in front of the other, our next exploration will be to discover how to turn every step into an experience of peace and presence through the practice of walking meditation. We have explored how the most fundamental acts of our day, such as eating, can be transformed from unconscious habits into profound meditations. This principle of weaving mindfulness into the fabric of our lives extends beyond stillness. While we often associate meditation with sitting silently on a cushion, there is another ancient, powerful, and deeply healing practice that brings mindfulness directly into movement. This is the practice of walking meditation. In our modern, sedentary lives, where we spend countless hours sitting at desks, in cars, and on couches, our bodies can accumulate a great deal of stagnant, restless energy for a mind that feels agitated or anxious. Sitting still can sometimes feel like trying to contain a volcano. Walking meditation offers a skillful way to engage with this energy, providing a dynamic and grounding practice that calms both the body and the mind. It teaches us that peace is not found only in stillness, but can be discovered in every single step we take. The most important shift we must make to begin this practice is a radical reorientation of our goal. In our normal, everyday walking, our purpose is purely functional. We walk to get from point A to point B. Our mind is not with our feet. It is already at the destination. We think about what we will do when we arrive. We plan our next conversation. We are lost in thought. Our body is simply a vehicle on autopilot. In walking meditation, this entire paradigm is turned on its head. The purpose is not to get anywhere. The purpose is to be fully present with the journey. The destination is each step. The goal is the path itself. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh gave the most beautiful instruction for this practice. He said, "Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet." This single, poetic image conveys the quality of attention. We are cultivating a quality of reverence, of intimacy, of tenderness, and of profound, loving presence with each and every step. The practice itself is simple and can be done anywhere. All you need is a clear path, perhaps 10 to 20 steps in length. You can practice in a hallway, in your garden, in a park, or even in a small room. You begin by standing at one end of your chosen path. Take a moment to simply stand still. Feel the solid ground beneath your feet. Feel the sensation of gravity, the weight of your body. Take a few conscious breaths, allowing yourself to arrive fully in this moment, in this place. Then, begin to walk, but at a pace that is deliberately and perhaps unnaturally slow. You might start by walking at half your normal speed, and then, as you become comfortable, you can slow down even more. The primary object of your awareness is the physical sensation in the soles of your feet. As you lift one foot, notice the feeling of peeling your heel off the ground, then the ball of your foot, then your toes. Feel your foot as it moves through the air. Then, feel the sensations as you place it back down the heel, touching first, then the rest of the foot gently rolling onto the ground. Feel the shifting of your weight from one foot to the other. You are bringing a granular, detailed awareness to an act you have performed unconsciously millions of times. This focused attention anchors the mind in the present moment. To deepen the practice and further stabilize the mind, you can coordinate your steps with your breath. There are many ways to do this, and you can find a rhythm that feels calming for you. A simple method is to take one step for every in-breath and one step for every out-breath. As you breathe in, you take a step with your left foot. As you breathe out, you take a step with your right foot. If you wish to slow down even more, you can break it down further. For example, as you breathe in, you lift your left foot off the ground. As you breathe out, you place your left foot down. On the next in-breath, you lift your right foot. On the next out-breath, you place your right foot down. There is no right or wrong way. The goal is to link the mind, body, and breath into a single, seamless, mindful experience. And what happens when the mind wanders? As it inevitably will, the practice is exactly the same as in sitting meditation. The moment you realize your mind is no longer with your feet, that it has been carried away by a thought, a memory, or a plan, you simply acknowledge this without any judgment. Then, you gently and kindly guide your attention back to the physical sensations in the soles of your feet, back to the feeling of kissing the earth. The benefits of this practice are manifold. For the body, it is a gentle way to release the tension and stiffness that comes from prolonged sitting. It improves our balance and reconnects us with our physical center of gravity. For the mind, it is a wonderful antidote to restlessness. The gentle, rhythmic movement helps to discharge anxious energy, making it a very accessible practice for those who find sitting meditation to be a struggle. It cultivates patience, teaching us to slow down in a world that constantly urges us to speed up. Most importantly, it teaches us that peace is portable. We learn that we don't need the perfect, silent conditions of a meditation hall to find a moment of centeredness. We can find it right here, in motion, in the midst of our active lives. One can imagine the powerful image of the Buddha and his large community of monks and nuns as they would walk on their daily alms rounds through the villages of ancient India. They walked barefoot, in single file, in silence. Their pace was not hurried. Their posture was upright and dignified. Each step was taken with a calm, deliberate presence. Their very way of walking was a form of teaching, a silent sermon on the possibility of moving through the world with grace, peace, and awareness. The villagers who witnessed this procession were often struck, not by anything they said, but by the profound and palpable sense of peace that they radiated with every step. We too can learn to walk through our own lives with this same quality of presence, making each step an offering of peace to ourselves and to the world around us. You can practice mindful walking anywhere, anytime. You can set aside 10 or 15 minutes for a formal, dedicated practice in your home or in a park. But you can also practice informally. You can practice mindful walking for the 30 seconds it takes to walk from your desk to the water cooler at work. You can practice as you walk from your car to the entrance of the grocery store. You can practice while waiting in line, simply by feeling your feet on the floor. Anytime you are walking is an opportunity to come home to the present moment, simply by shifting your awareness from the thoughts in your head to the feeling of your feet on the ground. This beautiful practice transforms a mundane, automatic activity into a rich and profound opportunity for mindfulness. By shifting our focus from the destination to the journey of each individual step, we learn to find peace in motion. We learn to integrate our practice not just into the quiet moments, but into the very flow and rhythm of our daily lives. We have now discovered how to bring mindfulness to our work, our relationships, our food, and our movement. We are learning to find depth in the essential activities that structure our days. But what about all the moments in between? What about the simple objects and experiences we are surrounded by every day, but have long since stopped truly seeing? Our next step on this journey is to learn how to reawaken our sense of wonder and find profound joy and beauty in the most ordinary things. We have journeyed through the inner landscapes of our minds and hearts, and we have brought our practice into the core activities of our lives, our relationships, our work, our eating, and our walking. Now, we turn to one of the most subtle and transformative aspects of this path, the cultivation of joy. So much of modern life is built upon a fundamental misunderstanding of happiness. We are conditioned to believe that happiness is something out there, a prize to be won after we achieve the next big thing. We chase after it relentlessly, believing it can be found in the next promotion, the next exotic vacation, the next romantic partner, or the next purchase. This is a formula for perpetual dissatisfaction. We run on a hedonic treadmill, achieving a goal, feeling a brief flicker of pleasure, and then quickly returning to our baseline state, already scanning the horizon for the next source of happiness to chase. We are always seeking, and therefore never truly finding. This practice invites us to stop seeking happiness in the future and to start noticing it in the present. It suggests that profound, sustainable joy is not found in grand, rare events, but in our ability to appreciate the small, ordinary, and ever-present miracles that fill our daily lives. Our minds, by default, are not wired to appreciate the ordinary. We have what psychologists call a novelty bias. Our brains are designed to pay attention to what is new, different, or potentially threatening. This was a useful survival mechanism for our ancestors, but in our modern lives, it means we quickly become habituated to the good things around us. A beautiful piece of art on our wall is breathtaking for the first week, and then it becomes invisible background wallpaper. The first sip of our morning coffee is a moment of pure bliss, and then we drink the rest of it on autopilot while thinking about something else. We stop seeing the beauty in our partner's face. We stop hearing the magic in a child's laughter. We stop feeling the wonder of a warm shower. We take the constant gifts of our lives for granted. Mindfulness is the direct antidote to this habituation. It is the art of intentionally bringing a beginner's mind, a fresh and curious perspective, to the familiar details of our world. The core practice for this is simple, accessible, and can be done at any moment. It is the practice of stopping and looking deeply. It is about choosing to pause for just 30 seconds or a minute and giving your full, undivided, sensory attention to one ordinary object or experience. Take, for example, your morning cup of tea or coffee. Instead of just drinking it, turn it into a meditation. Feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. Watch the steam rising in delicate patterns. Bring the cup to your nose and inhale the rich, comforting aroma before you even take a sip. When you do take that first sip, do so with your full attention, noticing the taste and the feeling of the warm liquid. In that single, mindful moment, a routine habit is transformed into a rich, sensory pleasure. You can do this with anything. On a walk, pick up a fallen leaf. Don't just glance at it and label it leaf. Truly look at it. Notice its intricate network of veins, its unique shape, the subtle variations in its color, the texture under your fingertips. See it for what it is, a tiny, perfect masterpiece of natural design. Take a moment to simply look up at the sky. Notice the precise shade of blue today, the shape and speed of the clouds. Feel the simple wonder of being alive under such a vast and beautiful canopy. Or just pause and listen. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and just listen to the soundscape around you. The distant hum of traffic, the chirping of a bird, the sound of your own breathing. Listen without judgment, simply receiving the symphony of the present moment. This practice does not change the world around you. It changes your perception of it. It reveals the extraordinary magic that is always present, hidden within the ordinary. As we learn to pay attention in this way, a particular quality of heart begins to arise naturally and spontaneously. That quality is gratitude. When we truly see and appreciate the gifts that are constantly being offered to us, gratitude is the inevitable response. Gratitude is more than just a polite thank you. It is a powerful practice that can fundamentally rewire our brains. Our minds have a natural negativity bias, another evolutionary hangover. We are hardwired to notice and remember threats, dang us, and what went wrong. It takes conscious effort to notice what is going right. A simple and profound way to do this is to keep a gratitude journal. Each evening, before you sleep, take just a few minutes to write down 3 to 5 specific things from your day for which you are genuinely grateful. They do not need to be monumental events. In fact, the practice is more powerful when they are small and specific. The comforting warmth of my sweater today, a kind smile from a stranger at the store, the delicious taste of that apple I had for lunch, the simple fact that my body breathed for me all day without me having to do anything. This practice trains your mind to actively scan your experience for the positive, the beautiful, and the good. Over time, it shifts your entire baseline orientation from a sense of lack and complaint to a sense of sufficiency, abundance, and quiet joy. You begin to realize that your life is already filled with riches that you were simply too busy to notice. There is a timeless folktale that perfectly captures this truth, that happiness is an inner state, not an outer condition. A powerful and immensely wealthy king fell ill with a deep and mysterious melancholy. None of his court physicians could cure him. Finally, the wisest of his advisors declared that there was only one possible cure. The king must find and wear the shirt of the happiest man in the kingdom. The king immediately dispatched his emissaries to search the land. They went to the palaces of the richest nobles, but they found them full of anxiety about their status and envy of their rivals. They visited the homes of the most successful merchants, but they found them consumed by worries about their profits and fears of losing their wealth. They searched high and low, among the powerful and the celebrated, but everyone they met had some complaint, some deep-seated worry, some reason they were not truly happy. Finally, dejected, the emissaries were returning to the palace. They passed a field where a poor farmer was working the land, dressed in rags, but singing a joyful song. They approached him and asked, "You seem very happy. Tell us, are you truly content with your life?" The farmer beamed at them. "I am," he said. "The sun warmed my back today. The work was good for my body, and soon I will return to my simple home for a meal with the family I love. I have everything a man could ever need." The emissaries were overjoyed. They had found him. They explained the king's desperate situation and offered the farmer a lifetime of riches in exchange for his shirt. The happy farmer roared with laughter. He opened his ragged tunic to reveal his bare chest and said, "I would give it to you with all my heart, my friends, but I do not own a shirt." This story teaches us a profound lesson. Happiness is not a result of what we have. It is not found in our possessions, our status, or our achievements. It is an inside job. It is an attitude of the heart, a capacity for gratitude, and the ability to find joy in the simple, present gifts of our life. The farmer, who had nothing, was the richest man in the kingdom because he knew how to appreciate what he had. We do not need to chase after grand experiences to find joy. True, sustainable happiness is found by bringing a mindful, grateful attention to the ordinary miracles that surround us in every moment. We learn to see the beauty in a cup of tea, the miracle in a single leaf, and the gift of our own breath. We have now journeyed through a wide array of practices and insights. We have learned to deconstruct the self, to cultivate a boundless heart, to bring mindfulness into our daily activities, and to find wonder in the ordinary. We have gathered a rich and powerful toolkit for transforming our experience of life. The final piece of our puzzle is to understand how all these different elements fit together into a single, coherent framework for living a way of life that is balanced, wise, and avoids all forms of extremism. This brings us to the Buddha's timeless and essential teaching of the middle path. We have journeyed through a vast and rich inner landscape. We have gathered a powerful collection of tools for the mind and heart, the anchor of mindfulness, the wisdom of impermanence and no self, and the boundless compassion of an open heart. We have explored how to apply these principles to our relationships, our work, and the simple acts of our daily lives. The question that naturally arises now is, how do all these pieces fit together, faced with so many techniques and insights? How do we integrate them into a single, coherent way of living? How do we walk a path of spiritual depth without becoming disconnected from the world? And how do we engage with the world without losing our inner peace? The answer lies in the Buddha's most essential and practical teaching, the foundational principle that guides the entire journey, the middle path. To truly appreciate the profound wisdom of the middle path, we must first understand the two extremes it so skillfully avoids. The Buddha himself lived both of these extremes in his own search for truth. He was born a prince, Siddhartha Gautama, and spent his early years in the first extreme, the extreme of sensual indulgence. He was surrounded by every imaginable luxury, pleasure, and comfort. He had palaces for every season, was entertained by the finest musicians, ate the most exquisite food, and was intentionally shielded from every sight of sickness, old age, and death. He had everything a person could possibly desire. Yet, he discovered that this life of constant pleasure-seeking was ultimately hollow. It did not lead to lasting happiness or security. It only created a deeper thirst for more stimulation and a subtle fear of losing the pleasures he had. It was a beautiful but fragile bubble, unable to provide true peace. So, he renounced his palace and went to the opposite extreme, the extreme of severe asceticism. For 6 years, he subjected his body to the most incredible hardships, believing, as many did at the time, that by punishing the body, he could liberate the spirit. He practiced holding his breath until he felt agonizing pains in his head and body. He ate so little that his ribs stuck out like the rafters of a collapsing barn, and he could feel his backbone through his stomach. He slept on beds of thorns and exposed himself to extreme heat and cold. He pushed his body and mind to the very brink of death. But this path also failed. He found that torturing his body only weakened his mind. It did not lead to wisdom, only to exhaustion and despair. It was there, collapsed and near death, after years of practicing these two extremes, that he had his great insight. Neither a life devoted to indulging the senses, nor a life devoted to punishing them, could lead to liberation. The true path must lie somewhere in between. This discovery is perfectly illustrated in a story about one of his disciples, a monk named Sona. Sona had been a skilled lute player before joining the monastic community, and he was practicing meditation with an intense, fierce, and painful effort. He was so hard on himself that he became completely discouraged and was on the verge of giving up. The Buddha, knowing his background, went to him and asked, "Sona, tell me, when you were a musician, what happened if you tuned the strings of your lute too tightly?" Sona replied, "Lord, if the strings were too tight, they would snap." The Buddha then asked, "And what happened if the strings were too loose?" Sona answered, "Lord, if they were too loose, they would not produce any sound, or the sound would be dull and unpleasant." Finally, the Buddha asked, "And what happened when the strings were tuned just right, not too tight, and not too loose?" Sona's face lit up. Then, "Lord," he said, "the lute would produce a beautiful, clear, and harmonious melody." The Buddha smiled in the same way. "Sona," he said, "a spiritual practice that is too tight, filled with striving and tension, only leads to agitation and restlessness. A practice that is too loose, filled with laziness and complacency, leads nowhere. The path to awakening, Sona, is like tuning your lute. It requires a balanced, skillful, and harmonious effort. This is the essence of the middle path. It is not a weak or mediocre compromise between two options. It is a higher, more intelligent path that transcends both extremes in our daily lives. It is the art of navigating between the pitfalls of clinging and aversion. It means we can enjoy the genuine, wholesome pleasures of this life, the taste of good food, the beauty of nature, the love of our family, the joy of art and music. We don't need to reject the world or live a life of grim denial. The key is that we learn to enjoy these things fully and mindfully, without clinging to them. We savor the sweetness while it is here, and we let it go gracefully when it passes, understanding its impermanent nature. At the same time, we learn to face the inevitable difficulties of life, pain, sickness, loss, and disappointment with courage and presence. We don't collapse into despair or try to numb ourselves. We meet life's first arrows with the balance and spaciousness of equanimity. The middle path is this exquisitely tuned balance, the art of living with an open heart that fully engages with life, yet does not become attached to its outcomes. The Buddha laid out a detailed and practical map for living this middle path, known as the Noble Eightfold Path. It is not a set of sequential steps, but 8 interconnected aspects of an awakened life that are to be cultivated simultaneously. They are often grouped into 3 categories. The first is wisdom, which includes right view, seeing reality clearly as it is, understanding concepts like impermanence and right intention. which means cultivating intentions rooted in kindness, compassion, and letting go. The second is ethical conduct, which includes right speech, speaking truthfully and kindly, right action, acting in ways that do not harm ourselves or others, and right livelihood, engaging in work that is not harmful to society. The third is mental discipline, which includes right effort, the balanced, harmonious effort of the well-tuned lute string, right mindfulness, the practice of present moment awareness that we have explored so deeply, and right concentration, the ability to unify the mind in deep states of calm and focus. This eightfold path is the comprehensive blueprint for translating the wisdom of the middle path into every aspect of our waking lives. Therefore, the middle path is not a vague philosophical idea. It is the practical, moment-to-moment art of finding balance. It is the wisdom that guides us in our meditation practice, so we don't strain or become lazy. It is the wisdom that guides our emotional life, so we can feel deeply without being owned by our feelings. And it is the wisdom that guides our engagement with the world, so we can live a life that is both deeply spiritual and fully human. By understanding this guiding principle, we see that awakening is not about becoming a superhuman being or escaping to some other realm. It is about learning to live right here, in this very world, with all of its beauty and all of its challenges, with profound wisdom, boundless compassion, and unshakable peace. This leads us to our final realization. This path is not a race to a finish line. There is no graduation day from the school of mindfulness. The path itself, walked with balance and awareness, is the entire point of the journey. We have now journeyed together across the vast terrain of the mind and heart. We have explored the nature of our restless thoughts, the roots of our suffering, and the profound liberation that comes from letting go. We have filled our toolkit with the practices of mindfulness, the boundless states of the heart, and the wisdom of the middle path. With such a comprehensive map laid out before us, it is easy to fall into a subtle trap, the final and most persistent illusion of the spiritual journey, the myth of arrival. We begin to imagine a future, perfected version of ourselves, a person who is enlightened, who is always calm, never gets angry, is free from all anxiety, and exists in a state of permanent bliss. We see awakening as a distant mountain peak to be conquered, a final destination at the end of a long and difficult road. But this very idea of a final attainment, a graduation day from the school of mindfulness, is itself a subtle form of craving. It is the ego projecting its usual habit of goal setting into the spiritual realm. This can become a source of immense frustration. We practice diligently, yet we still feel anger. We meditate, yet we still experience anxiety. We then judge ourselves harshly, believing we have failed or that we are not making progress. The truth of the path is both more humble and more beautiful than this fantasy of perfection. Awakening is not a destination you arrive at once and for all. It is a continuous process. It is a direction you face, a journey you continue to walk for your entire life. The progress on this path is rarely a straight, upward line. We imagine that each day we will become a little calmer, a little wiser, moving ever upward in a predictable and linear fashion. The reality is often more like an upward spiral. We find ourselves circling back to the same core issues in our lives again and again. Our deep-seated patterns of fear, our habitual reactions of anger, our familiar insecurities. This can feel discouraging as if we are making no progress at all. It can feel like we are right back where we started. But the key is to notice that each time we circle back around to that old, familiar issue, we are meeting it from a slightly higher vantage point. We have more tools, more awareness, and more compassion than we did the last time we were here. We might still feel the surge of anger, but perhaps this time we recognize it a moment sooner. We might still feel the grip of fear, but perhaps we no longer believe its terrifying story so completely. We might fall back into an old habit, but we find our way back to our center more quickly and with less self-blame. This is what real growth looks like. It is not the complete eradication of our human conditioning, but a fundamental and ever-deepening change in our relationship to it. Given this reality, the most essential quality we must cultivate for this lifelong journey is profound kindness and patience with ourselves. Our inner critics, which has been conditioned over a lifetime, will be very active on this path, especially on the days when we feel we have failed, when we forget to be mindful for an entire day, when we get lost in a painful emotional storm, when we speak unskillfully to someone we love. The inner critic will scream, "You failed, you're no good at this. You've been practicing for so long and you're still like this. You should just give up." The practice, at that moment, is to meet this voice of self-judgment with the gentle, wise voice of self-compassion. This kinder voice simply says, "Okay, you got lost. That's what it means to be human. The important thing is that you have noticed. Welcome back." That moment of noticing that we have been lost is a moment of success. That is the practice in action. The goal is not to never stray from the path. The goal is to become quicker, more graceful, and infinitely more compassionate in the act of returning to it. Kindness is not an optional extra on this journey. It is the very atmosphere in which any genuine growth can occur. This leads us to the most profound reorientation of all, the understanding that the journey itself is the destination. Our goal-oriented culture teaches us to do X in order to get Y. We work hard in order to get a promotion. We exercise in order to get a healthy body. We apply this same logic to our spiritual practice, believing that we meditate now in order to get peace in the future. But this path subverts that logic entirely. The moment of mindfulness is the moment of peace. The act of compassion is the expression of our awakened heart. The moment of letting go is the moment of freedom. Each step on the path is itself the arrival. Every time we choose to consciously return our awareness to the breath, every time we choose to listen deeply to another person, every time we choose to meet our own pain with kindness instead of aversion, that is the fruit of the practice. Happening right here, right now. There is no other, more special place to get to. This moment, met with awareness, is it? There is a helpful metaphor for this process-oriented journey, the peeling of an onion. Imagine you are given a large, heavy onion, and you are told that the ultimate secret of the universe is hidden at its very center. Eagerly, you begin your work. You peel off the dry, papery outer skin. Then you begin to peel away the thick, fleshy layers. The onion releases its pungent oils, and tears stream from your eyes. But you persevere, convinced that you are getting closer to the final prize. With each layer you remove, you peel and peel, and the onion gets smaller and smaller in your hand. Finally, with great anticipation, you peel away the very last, tiniest, most tender layer at the heart of the onion. And what do you find at the center? You find absolutely nothing. There is no hidden seed, no secret pit, no ultimate core. The onion was its layers. The journey of self-discovery is exactly like this. We are peeling back the layers of our conditioning, our personality, our habits, our beliefs. We are investigating the 5 aggregates, but we will never find a solid, essential self, or a single, ultimate answer at the center of it all. The path is the process of peeling. The path is the journey of discovery itself, unfolding moment by moment. There is no final answer to be found, only a living process to be fully inhabited. Therefore, we can finally relax. This path is not a race. There is no finish line to cross, no final exam to pass. Awakening is not a destination we must strive to reach, but a direction we choose to face. In every moment, it is the continuous, lifelong process of returning, again and again, with ever greater kindness and patience, to the simple, profound reality of the present moment. The invitation is not to become a perfect, flawless being, but to become a more fully, more wisely, and more compassionately human one. The invitation is simply to begin right here where you are, and to walk on, one mindful step and one conscious breath at a time. Every moment of awareness is a moment of freedom, and this moment, right now, is all you ever need. Our long journey together through the inner landscape is now drawing to a close, but your own personal journey, the journey of a lifetime, is always just beginning. We began by standing together in the noisy, chaotic jungle of the monkey mind, feeling its restlessness and anxiety. From there, we became detectives of our own hearts, diagnosing the root of our discontent as Tana, the universal thirst of clinging and craving. We discovered the profound and liberating art of letting go, understanding it not as an act of defeat, but as a gesture of profound wisdom and strength. We equipped ourselves with the most simple and powerful of anchors, the breath, learning to use it to guide our wandering minds back home to the present moment. We learned to inhabit our bodies with kindness, listening to their stored wisdom through the body scan with growing courage. We learned to sit with the weather of our minds, to watch our thoughts as passing clouds, and to hold even our most difficult emotions with the compassionate space of R and of I-N. We looked deeply into the universal laws of impermanence and no self, not as grim philosophies, but as liberating truths that free us from our struggle with reality. And from that spaciousness, we cultivated the boundless heart. We learned to sow the seeds of metta, wishing for the happiness of all beings. We watered those seeds with the tenderness of karuna, wishing for all suffering to cease. We rejoiced in the sunshine of mudita, sharing in the joy of others. And we grounded it all in the deep, unshakable earth of upekkha, finding a peaceful balance in the midst of life's inevitable storms. We have seen how to weave these threads of awareness into the fabric of our relationships, our work, and the most simple, ordinary moments of our day. We have learned that the goal is not to command the ocean to be still, but to become a skillful surfer, able to ride the waves of life with balance, grace, and a quiet mind. If there is one single truth to carry with you from our time together, let it be This peace is not an external destination. It is not a prize to be won only after all of life's problems have been solved. It is not the absence of the storm, but the discovery of a quiet, unshakable center right in the middle of the storm. It is an inner quality of presence, a state of being that is available to you in every single moment. Its gateway is always unlocked. Its key is your own breath, your own awareness. Right here and right now. You now have the map. You have been given the tools. The path has been illuminated for you, but no one can walk this path for you. The most ancient wisdom and the most profound teachings are merely signposts, useless until they are brought to life through your own experience, your own patient and compassionate practice. The invitation now is not to become a perfect meditator overnight, or to never feel anger or anxiety again. The invitation is much simpler. It is just to begin. Begin with one conscious breath. Begin with one moment of kindness toward yourself when you make a mistake. Begin by truly tasting just one bite of your next meal. Begin by taking a single step, feeling your foot kiss the earth. Do not look for the peace you seek in some distant future or in some other, more perfect circumstance. The tranquility, the freedom, and the boundless love you have been searching for your entire life have been patiently waiting for you all along. Not out there, but in here, in the quiet, luminous depths of your own heart. Welcome home.